Seo Dojan looks like your typical high school dude with a backpack, but he's out here soloing dungeons like it's no biggie. This one's packed with huge orcs that seem straight up impossible to beat. But Dojan takes down their boss with one hit, like he's some kind of Saitama. The other orcs try to smash him, but he's just too quick and strong. He wrecks them like oversized cockroaches. From one orc, he snags a rare magic stone that can boost his skills even more. Stoked about his find, Dojan shoves it in his backpack and gets ready to dip. But a bunch of guild guys who own this dungeon catch him, and they're not happy he cleared it. They think they got the numbers and are confident they can take down a high school kid. But man, they couldn't be more wrong. When they try to grab him and slap on handcuffs, Dojan shows them what's up, even with their electric shockers zapping him from all sides. It's all pointless. Dojan wrecks them like they're little kids. They don't stand a chance and can't even wrap their heads around who this boy really is. After dealing with that trash, Dojan strolls out of the dungeon like it's just another typical day. You might be wondering why this dude is so overpowered. Well, he used to vibe in another world that got wrecked by way stronger monsters than these. Those monsters invaded and turned the world into a total mess. People fought tooth and nail to protect their home. Among those brave folks was our main dude, Carcelian Leandian, who battled the threat with the same ferocity. Years went by with him taking down countless monsters, piling up bodies with just his trusty blade, and fear was nowhere in sight. Finally, there was a day he faced off against Aaron's brother from another mother. That dude was a serious challenge. The fight was wild, but he eventually took that jerk down. After all that chaos, he himself met his end. But fate had other tricks up its sleeve. As his soul floated in this endless void, he met a kid from some planet called Earth. This kid's name was Seo Dojan, and he was about to bite the dust for some reason. Right before he went, he made a simple request to Leandian, who shut him down before he could even spill the beans. All the bro wanted was to chill and die peacefully. He was over all the drama. He'd lost his home to monsters, lost his fam, and ended up dying like a total loser. Meanwhile, this kid Seo Dojan wasn't even stoked about living either, but he really wanted his family to have a shot at a good life. It looks like Leandian is finally ready to hear this dude's wish. The kid lights up like it's Christmas morning and gathers his courage to say he wants his family to be chill. So our guy happily takes on the mission to protect this dude's fam and finds himself back on Earth. Now, rocking the body of that teenage guy Dojan, he's on a quest to hit up Namsen Gate, which is rank C for obvious reasons. Only legit heroes are allowed in. So the automated system keeps yelling at him to scan his ID card, which, he doesn't have. He just crashes through the guard station to get into the gate, setting off alarms like it's some kind of invasion. Once inside, he starts wandering around looking for monsters to crush. That's when he runs into a crew of heroes. You know, the ones with badges and the whole permission deal. They think this kid's lost and offer to lead him out since they're heading for the exit too. Dojan stays quiet, giving off this weird vibe. Even the heroes sense something's off. He's decked out in casual clothes and does not look like a hero at all. Sure, porters dress down these days, but his outfit is way too chill for this situation. And what's the deal with that bag on his back? For all they know, he's probably just a lost porter who got ditched by the party he rolled in with. But they're still not sure. Dojan finally chimes in, acknowledging why they're wary, but makes it clear he rolled in solo without any hero crew. Hearing this, one of the heroes sighs, understanding why this kid's here. He's seen tons of cases where people get hyped to be heroes and slay monsters after watching some flashy TV ads. But that burst of motivation can lead to disaster fast if they run into gates without following the rules. First, you gotta get officially certified as a hero, then you go through training and testing. And yeah, this gate is C rank for a reason. If you're a rookie just starting out, you better hit up an F rank gate before you really bite the dust. After listening to this dude ramble and giving out advice nobody asked for, Dojan makes it super clear he doesn't need any of that nonsense. Naturally, the hero squad is thrown off by this kid firing back with such an icy tone. They were just trying to help, so they get a bit annoyed, but the leader tells the squad to chill. If the guy doesn't want help, whatever, let him be. The leader is pretty sure this kid will learn the hard way why you don't ignore someone wise when they're talking. They want him to find out just how ruthless these gates really are. Unlike the TV shows that make being a hero seem like the ultimate gig, soon enough, Dojan comes face to face with a giant troll staring him down, ready to chow him alive. Leave him be. The leader is confident this kid will eventually learn the hard way why you don't cover your ears when someone wise is talking. They hope he finds out just how unforgiving these gates are. Unlike the TV shows that glamorize being a hero like it's the second coming of Christ, soon enough, Dojan finally comes across a giant troll staring him down, ready to eat him alive. The monster goes for a hit but totally misses and slams into the ground. Dude moves so quick that the troll was like, "Wait, what just happened?" Then he powers up his fist and throws a punch so hard it looks like something out of One Punch Man, taking that bad guy out for good. Now that the monster's gone, it's time for the good stuff. Time to loot, fam. First, he snags that sword the jerk was rocking. Then he uses that same sword to dig around in the monster's body and pulls out this shiny gem. It's a magic stone, but like a super low-grade one. Basically worthless. Dojan didn't even care about these in his old life. But hey, he's broke right now, so he's got to take what he can get. Suddenly, more monsters roll up mad as hell after seeing their homie get wrecked. Dojan spins around and tosses the gemstone so fast, it pops one of their heads clean off. The other two goofballs rush in like they have a death wish, and Dojan's totally ready to fulfill it. While he's having a blast, we switch back to the crew of heroes trudging through the monster-infested area. They're still thinking about that dude they ran into earlier. The orange-haired girl is actually stressing over Dojan, worried he might bite the dust. But the leader's like, chill, he's probably fine. If he's just some random dude who snuck in, the agents will scoop him up in no time. Those agents are always at least B rank. And since this gate is C rank, there's no way he's gonna die here. As long as the kid doesn't act like a total doofus and charge at monsters, he's golden. The baldy dude nods, agreeing, thinking the brat must be quaking in his boots, waiting for the agents to bail him out. But the truth is, it's totally the opposite. Our dude is making these oversized wannabes shake in their boots, one punch and they're down. He's so fast they can't even land a hit on him, let alone squish him under their blades. He's right behind one of the idiots and delivers a kick that just destroys the dude's head. With all the losers out, he picks up one of their swords and starts harvesting those sweet magic stones for himself. After a bit, he's done packing his bag and is ready to bounce. But honestly, he's kinda bummed about today's haul, all low-grade junk weighing him down. Just then, one of the agents finally spots him and shouts to his buddies. Before Dojan can fully turn around, those suited dudes give him the cold stare. First, they go on about how they're from the gate control center and demand to see his hero registration card. If he's not registered, he's got to roll with them to the control center. Dojan's unsure about that, which makes Mr. Suit tense up even more, getting all icy and demanding he play nice. But all he gets in response is Dojan's annoyed face, not in the mood for their drama. He just turns to leave. Since he's not down for this chit-chat, the suits threaten him with handcuffs if he doesn't cooperate. They're ready to go hands-on if they have to. One overly eager guy reaches for Dojan's arm, threatening him with pain if he doesn't comply. He goes on about how the blame will fall on Dojan if things go south, so they should settle things with words, not fists. Seems like Dojan's over the talk, so he grabs that dude's hand back and warns him to stop acting like a prick in his way. That icy warning sends chills down the suit's spine. The other two idiots pull out their magic batons, which are actually grade 4 magic staffs strong enough to take down an orc. But there's no way they can hurt Dojan, so he twists the punk's hand so hard he starts whimpering like the baby he is. Then he lays down a final threat. They better leave before they lose whatever dignity they have left. Eventually, the bustled suits have to resort to violence. They try hitting him with their staffs, but none of their swings land. Dojan delivers a crushing blow to one guy's back, and then follows up with a punch to another's gut. Next up, he turns to the dude in glasses, the last guy still standing. The final dude feels the tension and braces himself. Dojan blurs out of sight like he just disappeared, sending the dude into a panic. Then, bam, a punch out of nowhere slams into his gut, making him stumble back in pain. Looks like Dojan's had it with all this nonsense and starts thinking about registering as a hero after all. The agent's like, as long as he stays away from shady stuff, no agents will be hunting him down. Dojan then asks about this thing called a rift, throwing the agent off his game. Quick scoop on how this world works. There are tons of passages leading to another world packed with weird monsters. These passages are scattered everywhere. The gemstones taken from monster bodies are a fresh energy source that everyone wants. Because of this demand, the government keeps an iron grip on these passages to control everything. Every passage that's controlled and open for heroes is termed a gate. Passages that aren't under control are tagged as rifts. Back to our boy. Looks like Dojan's done with all the chatter, so he grabs that dude's hand back and warns him to stop being such a pain in his way. That icy warning makes the poor suit guy freak out. A shiver runs down his spine. The other two knuckleheads whip out their glowing batons. They're actually grade 4 magic staffs strong enough to take down an orc. But they don't pack enough heat to actually harm our guy. So he twists that dude's hand with no chill, making him whine like the total baby he is. Then he drops a final warning. They better bounce now if they don't want to lose what little pride they've got left. Eventually, the duty-bound suits have no choice but to resort to violence. They swing their magic staffs at our guy, but none of them land a hit. Our guy smacks one idiot right in the back, then clocks another in the gut. Next up, he zeroes in on the guy with glasses, the last dude standing. The last dude feels the heat and tenses up. Dojan zips away, vanishing into thin air, making that guy lose it at seeing a dude literally disappear. Then, out of nowhere, a sneaky punch lands right in the gut, sending the guy staggering backward in pain. Seems like Dojan's had it up to here with all the drama and agents tailing him. He's finally thinking about signing up as a hero. The agent promises him that as long as he steers clear of any shady business, no agents will be gunning for him. Dojan then brings up this thing called a rift. That question totally throws the agent off. Quick rundown of how this world works. There are loads of paths connecting to another realm, where all sorts of weird monsters chill. These paths are scattered all over. The gemstones found in monster bodies are used as fresh energy sources, making them super desirable. That's why the government keeps a close watch on these paths to stay in charge. Every government-backed path open to heroes is called a gate. Paths that are unregulated or open are known as rifts. Back to our dude. Back. Dude's totally fed up with these suits tailing him everywhere, accusing him of sneaking in, no matter which gate he rolls through. The poor agent spills that if an unregistered hero walks through a gate without a pass, the control center gets a heads up right away, and agents chillin' nearby come rushing in. Our guy's thinking about diving into a rift, and the agent straight up says, "Those bad boys aren't just any gate." Trespassing into a rift. Yeah, that gets you hit with serious punishment. No warnings, no deals. Dojan's not hearing any of that, so he grabs the poor guy by the face and tosses him aside like trash. By this point, the poor agent's wishing he had just called headquarters. This whole sitch is way above his pay grade. Before he bounces, Dojan glances back at the trash agent lying there, laughing inside at how weak this dude really is. The weak dude's got a busted arm and is yelling out threats, swearing he'll catch our boy and lock him up. Then we cut to Solgas and the digital complex in Gyeomchan district. This massive building is now known as the Hero Complex. This is where all the magic stone deals or anything gate-related go down. Seriously, this place is more packed than ever these days. Dojan strolls into one of the joints that buys and sells magic stones. As he walks in, he's greeted by this Gen Z dude glued to his phone scrolling through brain-numbing Insta-reels. When Dojan says he's looking to sell some stones, the slick shop owner starts yapping about his biz, claiming this joint gives the best prices around. He even brags they're the top shop in the whole country. Dojan slaps down all the low-grade gems smeared with monster guts on the counter, and the store owner's face drops like he just got hit by a truck. He's super grossed out by all the blood on the stones. Still, he ain't complaining and goes ahead with the sale. He asks Dojan if he wants a coffee while they clean up the stones. A bit later, Dojan's sipping on some coffee while the shop owner meticulously wipes the blood off the stones. After that, the owner crunches the numbers. There are 12 low-grade magic stones, 16 mid-grade ones plus 5, each of upper and lower-grade stones. After raking off a 40% cut, Dojan's about to get around 5.5 million won. But our boy's not vibing with handing over 40% as commission. Feels way too unfair since he did all the hunting and wasted his time. Like, who the heck does this guy think he is taking almost half? The shop owner all cocky claims he's being generous, only charging 40% when the other stores are hitting 45% or more. He's so sure of himself he even dares Dojan to snatch his stones back if he's not feeling the price. Because, like, no one else will dish out more. Or at least that's what this dude says. Our guy ain't falling for that and starts shoving his stones back into his bag. Realizing his tricks ain't working, the dude grabs Dojan's hand before he walks out and demands cash for the appraisal and the coffee. It's 30,000 won for the appraisal plus 10,000 for the coffee. Plus, all the blood he had to scrape off messed up his fancy towel. Adding it all up, Dojan supposedly owes around 350,000 won. Dojan ain't giving in to these ridiculous demands, no matter how hard this crazy dude pushes. When nothing's working, the guy pulls out street-level tactics and threatens Dojan with the C-class heroes he's got as backup. Right then, those big dudes crash in through the back door asking what the deal is. If anyone's stirring up trouble, they're ready to handle it. Dojan shoots a killer glare at the dude who fires back with the same intensity. A bit later, we see the shop owner sweating bullets, looking terrified, realizing he's not the main character anymore after Dojan took down his 3 henchmen without breaking a sweat, showing who the real MC is. My dude strolls up to the counter and nails the commission down to 1%, no questions asked. Everybody knows there's no arguing when someone like Dojan is staring right into your soul, so the deal goes through, and Dojan walks out with a fat stack of cash for the haul he wrangled with his blood, or more like his fists. His grandma and sister are totally blown away by the huge amount of cash. Grandma Pa even thinks Dojan's pulling a fast one with fake bills, but he clears that up quick, saying the cash came from lending dough to a friend who started a business that did really well. Grandma's not even sure if he has a friend like that. He tries giving Grandma another story, saying it was a childhood buddy. Eventually, Grandma stops with the big questions. Meanwhile, Dojan's sister is super stoked about her big bro making them rich. He gives her a pat on the back and fills her head with dreams about the luxury life waiting for them. The little girl's jumping around thrilled to be rich. Seeing her all hyped, Dojan realizes he's actually making moves, keeping a promise he made. He remembers the words of the guy whose body he's in now, whose final wish was for his grandma and half-sister Yun-Young to live safe and happy lives. That poor guy vanished right before Dojan could say a word, and when he came to, he found himself as Seo Dojan. Watching her so happy, Dojan realizes he's actually making progress, fulfilling a promise he once made. He remembers the words of the owner of the body he's possessing, whose one dying wish was for his grandma and his half-sister Yun-Young to live safe and happy lives. That poor guy disappeared right before Dojan could say anything. And when his wish was for his grandma and his half-sister Yun-Young to live safe and happy lives. That poor guy disappeared right before Dojan could say anything, and when he woke up, he had become Seo Dojan. Now his main goal is to keep this little fam living the good life safe and sound. For that, he's looking to buy the crunkiest house in Korea, which is going to set him back 110 billion. For him, making bank ain't going to be a problem once he gets his strength back. This world is pretty similar to the one he used to vibe in the one that got totally wrecked. The only big change, the rifts. Gates and monsters here are all kind of weaker than what he saw go down before. For a dude who was the sword god in his past life, this place is just a playground. So far, he's only been throwing punches at 1/10 of his OG power. Out of nowhere, there's a knock on the door, and the visitor says he wants to see Dojan. Dude stands up and decides to check it out. As he swings open the door, he spots 2 thugs chilling outside. These dudes are here to collect a debt Dojan owes, which is a mind-blowing 48 million. Knowing this, Dojan's sure they're just a couple of loan shark losers. The real code Dojan borrowed, cash from before he bounced from this world for good. It was supposed to be just 5 million for his grandma's hospital bills, but these guys are charging hella interest and demanding 10 times the original amount in no time. They know he's been stacking cash lately through those gates, so they want him to cough up the dough since it's all in the contract. But the only payment these clowns get is a jaw-crushing punch right to the big guy's grill. That single hit sends the poor thug flying, leaving his partner staring in shock. Our guy then gives the skinny loser a death glare to remind him that over 9 million has already been paid back. So if you do the math, these losers should be the ones paying him interest. With another punch that gets the punk crying like a little baby, Dojan tells him to let his boss know that Dojan's about to pay a visit. The scene cuts to the shopping mall packed with life. There we see cute little Onyong brightening up a kid in a teddy bear store. Dojun brought her here for a shopping spree. Today, she's free to grab whatever she wants. You know, our boy wasn't always such a softie in his previous life. It's the memories of the original Dojun that warmed up his cold heart. It makes him feel all warm and fuzzy inside to see how sweet Dojan is to Eun-young, even though she's just his half-sister. So, he's all in to keep spreading the love for this little girl. The little cutie finally picks out a stuffed toy she really wants. It's a small but adorable bunny. She chooses wisely, making sure she's not going overboard. But Dojan grabs a way bigger stuffed toy for her. He wants her to go all out. It's her day, and she can pick whatever her heart desires without stressing about cash. They both indulge in some delicious food, too. While they're munching on their meals, an unfamiliar voice calls out our boy's name. It's a middle-aged woman, flanked by a squad of bodyguards. This chubby MILF looks like yet another hatin' troll who loves to throw shade at our boy. First, she rips on his whack outfit. Then she comes for the girl sitting next to him. She gets bold and throws a jab, saying he must have knocked someone up to have this girl, just like how his mom brought him into this world. Of course, these sharp shots really tick off our boy. Meanwhile, the little girl has no clue who this lady is or why she's popping off like that. This MILF then turns her attention to the girl and asks her name. The girl introduces herself as Lee Yun-young, which makes this troll realize she's Dojun's sis. Out of habit, the woman throws a jab at her clothes too, calling her a mess. This punk isn't even sparing her late mother, and all of this is just pushing our boy's buttons real hard. But for some reason, he's keeping it all in, trying not to lash out at her provocations. Even this MILF is shocked at how Dojan is keeping it cool, not falling for her little traps. So this troll decides to level up. This oversized piece of work gets bold, enough to ask a kid what harlot means. Well, that's the last straw. Dojan snaps and calls her an ugly woman who's part of an orc tribe. Of course, the woman is left wide-eyed and mind blown after getting hit with that. Let's drop some backstory to understand why Dojan has been putting up with this woman until now. You see, Dojan was born as an illegitimate kid and grew up in the hood. At the tender age of 7, his mom passed away, and he barely made it to his dad's crib. With his dad marrying a new woman, he was shunned by everyone. It only got worse after his dad's legit wife had a kid, and Dojan was completely ignored. Things got so rough that he got booted from the very house he lived in. So he crashed with his half-sibling at his grandma's place. As our boy reflects, he feels sorry for the original Dojan who had to deal with this, and still tried to keep a smile on his face like life was all good. Now, he's ready to flip the script. Seems like this woman is his stepsister, which explains why he was trying to keep his cool, but he ain't taking her nonsense anymore. He remembers how he shared a roof with this orc of a woman, and she's just as nasty as ever. Not only is her personality messed up and her looks orcish, she's also dumb as rocks. He takes her down even further by dropping savage truth bombs about how she's a mess with a serious inferiority complex. That's the only reason she throws her insecurities at others, calling them ugly. She's just a gold digger obsessed with others, and that's the real deal the world needs to know. As he keeps smashing her with his cutting remarks, the entire shopping mall is watching them like they're the main event. The orc lady is super annoyed and about to snap, but then Dojan's stepmom strolls in. Seeing her mom, the orc lady struts up like the whiny drama queen. She is whining about how this kid just shut her down with his words. But this mama is heated seeing her daughter complain like that, giving her a cold stare to shut her up. Not gonna lie, this stepmom is more intense than you'd expect. At first, I thought the orc lady was his actual stepmom. The hot mom then turns to our dude giving him a fancy greet. She's all like, "Come back home for some fun." But Dojan knows that this sweet act is totally fake. After all, she's the one who brought him the most pain and chaos in the 12 years he's stuck with them. The woman keeps hitting Dojan with memories he'd rather forget, triggering his PTSD and making him go into serious mode. With a tone colder than your mom's worst jokes, Dojan tells this lady to scram. Major blow to her pride, getting schooled by someone younger. She spins around and walks out with the last bit of dignity she's got left. For real though, she totally didn't expect him to come back at her so hard. Now she's left thinking if he's the same kid who used to bow his head when she slapped him for no reason. Her spoiled daughter follows along with their guards trailing the two ladies. Honestly, these guards could have been mannequins for all the use they had in this mess. Let's focus on our dude. Seems like these two girls totally crashed the vibe our guy was having, so he decides to bounce too. The way he handled his stepfamily intentionally savage. He wanted to make one thing super clear. The old Dojan who couldn't even stick up for himself gone. It's time his trash family realizes that. We then shift to a fancy Mercedes speeding down the road. Inside, it's the trash mom and daughter throwing a fit. The daughter is mad at her mom for not putting Dojan in check and just walking out instead, venting her frustration and cursing him for the embarrassment they faced. The mom yells at her manager, demanding to know why Dojan is still breathing. Baldy has no idea how this dude is still alive. It doesn't match the reports. The woman screams about the nonsense this dude is saying. How could he still be alive when they thought they did the job properly? The poor guy assures her he'll dig into it again and make sure the job gets done right this time. Meanwhile, the trash daughter is clueless about her shady mom's plans. She's freaked out hearing the talk about killing and dying. Eventually, the mom hits her with a question asking if she likes Dojan. This throws the chunky girl off, making her all blushy and flustered. Actually, she's worried about Dojan kicking the bucket because if Grandpa or Dad find out, they're going to be in mega trouble. The mother grabs her daughter's mouth hard and warns her to stay out of her business. The mom is dead set on taking Dojan out with no plans to let him slide, especially after how he dared to talk back. Getting rid of him is her ultimate revenge. A decade back, everything went haywire when the rift appeared. This freaky dimension opened the gate for monsters ready to take out humans on sight. Their terror never backed down. It was non-stop and totally wrecked the world, leaving cities destroyed and burning. But just like the dark forces showed up, the light came through in the form of brave warriors called heroes. With their arrival, the first mana stones were discovered in the remains of the defeated monsters. Fast forward to now. Dojan's heading somewhere, thinking about how mana stones flipped the world's reliance on traditional energy sources. Because of their importance, countries started focusing on the rifts trying to snag the resources. With the world turning, everything is now tied to gates and the need for heroes. And because of that, being a hero means you can rake in mad cash. You can only score a fat paycheck by becoming a real hero. Dojan arrives at his spot, which is actually the Yongjong-o HCS Capitol building. I know that's a mouthful, but you'll see why he's here soon. He steps into the building, and at first glance, the boss man and his goons look like your run-of-the-mill thugs trying to scare folks with their ugly faces. But Dojan is chill about it. The boss flicks his cigarette and calls out Dojan for having the nerve to not only beat his crew, but also show up like he owns the place. It really shows that Dojan doesn't give a flying flip about anyone. He smartly tells the boss that actually it's him who came here to ask for his well-deserved payback. After all, he's put up with mental, physical, and material losses thanks to these clowns. With his strong words, the boss notices one major shift in the kid's vibe. Something about him has totally changed. The nerve to not only wreck his goons, but also stroll up to the door. It seriously shows that Dojan doesn't give a crap about anyone. He slickly tells the big boss that in reality it's Dojan who's been at a real loss. That statement sounds wild to the boss, so he asks what our guy means. Dojan clears it up, saying he came to collect the compensation he deserves. After all, he's put up with mental, physical, and material losses all this time. Because of these jokers. With his strong and serious words, the boss notices something big has shifted in the kid's vibe. Something about him has changed. He's not the quiet dude or the chill person he used to be anymore. And then there's the part where this same kid wrecked the lackey he sent to his place. So the boss thinks Seo Dojan had some crazy awakening during his gate adventures. Even knowing this, the guy still rolls with his arrogant attitude. He tells Dojan that his newfound swagger from his awakening is gonna be his downfall. The hypocrite calls our boy too full of himself, and to back his talk, he drags in a squad of cranky dudes to try and scare him. Sure, he's got the muscle, but next to the Sword God's experience, they're basically little bugs. The boss is just talking nonsense, saying that even awakened folks usually wind up getting taken out like trash and low-tier heroes by the end. The best part, this dude thinks Seo Dojan is just some D-class hero who they can crush easily. Meanwhile, Dojan's chilling on the couch like a boss while 5 guys are trying to stare him down. Without even cracking a smile, he tells the boss to sit his ass back down. The boss is shocked he keeps talking in his normal tone, while Dojan makes it clear with a straight face that he's not finished yet. Hearing that one of the guys decides to step up and test Dojan, funny enough, our boy just takes off his glasses, adding to the confusion. Then out of nowhere, he hits him with a Mike Tyson ballistic universal machine gun rocket. Punch 9000 right in his face. The guy goes flying from the hit while his buddies just stand there speechless. But that's not it, because Dojan takes down another one too. Just so you know, while he's whooping their butts, he's calmly dropping some truth bombs too. He spills the tea about the boss's sketchy money-lending business. Then he targets some orange-haired punk and proves he knows all about the fake ID game the boss runs. After he lands that punch, he tells the boss he's looking for a legit hero identity to register as one and make some cash. Dodging the last guy's swing, Dojan hits back triple hard, and that's how he puts the whole crew into his special sleep mode. Works every single time. Dojan lays down his demand, saying he needs a foolproof ID that won't cause him any hassle later. The boss is left totally stunned by what just went down in a few seconds. Our boy reminds him he's only got one day to whip up that identity for him. Just stood there during the fight, which is kinda a compliment to the NPCs, since they're usually the ones who challenge the big guy while being level 1 newbies in most stories. The boss is out here, losing his mind trying to figure out Dojan's skill level. At least the dude seems B-class strong. Bro is so in his head that he needs the kid to snap him back to reality. He's all happy to accept the job too. Finally, Dojan grabs his shoulder real nice, but looks super intimidating while asking if Hong Hee-ju, his stepmom, ordered a hit on him. Obviously, that's pretty much true, as shown by the convo she had with her daughter and assistant earlier. The boss can't find the words until Dojan grips him hard enough that the guy yelps in pain. Even his goons look like they're powerless to help their leader. Honestly, they should get new barbers too. Anyway, the boss spills the beans on her wicked plan. This heartless woman wanted to drain Dojan's money dry, pushing him into such a deep financial pit that he'd be left with no choice but to off himself to escape it. Now that's a next-level evil scheme, especially against your own son, even if he's cut off. Those were her orders. Dojan listens, and after he's done begging and crying, he lets the guy go, wondering if that's also why they locked him in the gate. The boss goes full innocent act, claiming he had nothing to do with that mess, even saying he wouldn't get paid for the hit if he kicked the bucket in the gate. That's probably a solid reason why he wouldn't pull a stunt like that, and it gets Dojan thinking. He drops the name Kang Chol-woo, the guy who first brought him to the gate. Essentially, Dojan wants the whole scoop on that dude by tomorrow. With his demands made, he leaves like a total pro, flipping the whole vibe of the room from when he came in. After that talk, Dojan finds himself deep in thought again. The real Seo Dojan only wanted one thing. He was all about protecting his little sister and beloved grandma, no matter what. All this craziness just layers on more misery and shows how rough the poor kid had it while feeling so helpless. But don't worry, because the sword god's ready to do what he needs to clear the air. The next day, you know what our boy's officially registered. And he's got a B rank rating too. Which is sick, unlike all those other stories where the main character is stuck at the lowest possible rank just for the aesthetics. Tapping. He was ready to protect his little sister and his beloved grandma no matter what. With everything that went down, it just adds another load of pain and shows the kind of life the poor kid had to bear while feeling powerless. But no worries, because the sword god's ready to do whatever it takes to set things right. The next day, guess what? Our dude's officially registered. And he's rocking a B rank rating, which is dope, unlike all those other stories where the main character starts off as a total noob just for style points. Tapping. He swipes his card on the machine, proving he's legit because the system recognizes him. But hold up, it warns him his rank's still kinda lame for the dangerous mission he's about to dive into. This totally annoys our dude who thinks maybe he should have ticked off the jerk to hook him up with a higher rank to avoid all these hassles. Even though the system's all like, don't go in there, it's too much for you. Dojan's like, who cares, and goes for it anyway. Let's break down what's up with that Night Island gate. It's just a B-rank gate, but doesn't mean a B-rank hunter's gonna make it out alive. Heroes are usually told to roll in with a class higher for their own safety. Anyway, the dungeon's rated D, which means it's a big mess, and solo hunting's gonna be a pain. The silver lining, it's all tunnels, so that kinda helps him out a bit. But with the size of this gate, they highly suggest an A-rank hero takes on the job. But risk and danger, nah, those words don't exist in Dojan's world. Worst case scenario, he's up against a whole army of monsters in a tight tunnel with no space to breathe. Dojan grins at his first foe, a massive snake radiating wild purple vibes. For most heroes, this is a nightmare, but for him, it's like a lucky charm as he gears up his gauntlets to kick off the brawl. Oh, and guess what? The serpent's got a squad too. Their tongues kind of remind him of a weird alien flick. They go all out to attack. But it's no use cause our guy's a total beast snagging those mana stones like the monsters never stood a chance. The black killing viper is known for its crazy paralysis poison that can drop anyone with just a brush. So Dojan's like, time to move. and charges in like a speeding bullet swinging hard. In no time, he's slicing and dicing the creature, blood spraying everywhere, till he splits the monster in half. With that beast put down, Dojan checks out his gear. The gloves he got are keeping the poison off him, and for 300,000, they're definitely holding up. Back to hunting. Dojan spots 4 more of those ugly limbless dudes and starts blasting through their heads with his crazy speed. Blood is flying everywhere, till those vipers are sent packing to the afterlife. Dojan stands there busy digging for magic stones by clawing through the monster remains. Sadly, no magic stones pop up, but that's just how it goes in this old world. Monsters only drop mana stones 3% of the time, so he's gotta hunt like mad to score any good loot. As he strolls along, he runs into Mr. Bonehead. You might think he's the big boss, but Dojan's got other ideas. So he asks the oversized snake if it's the boss monster, hoping it'll answer back like a bud. Anyway, Dojan thinks it's awesome. This big guy showed up because now he won't get lost. He goes in for a quick strike, ready to wrap this up and head home. But then whoops, unexpected twist. Even though he lands a solid hit, it barely phases the creature. All he gets is a tattoo on his head for his trouble. While he's airborne, the creature smacks him into the wall with its tail. Dojan crashes down, getting a serious wake-up call about the boss monster's power. I think the creature shows off its poisonous fangs and hisses at him like your average girlfriend who's hungry. The creature tries to munch him, but lucky for Dojan, he dodges just in time. Using the rush from his dodge, he zooms back in and lands a punch that cracks against the creature's tough hide. From this second hit, one thing's clear. The boss monster's shell is way tougher than the other vipers he took out, making this a crazy challenge. The shell is so strong that he can't bust through it with just one strike. This flips the script on him, making him wonder if he needs a new game plan. At his old strength, the sword god would wipe the floor with this beast. But then he spots something. It's the sword of the warrior who got wrecked fighting the boss, and now you'll see why he's called the sword god and not the fist god. Even though the sword looks super beat up after the battle, he picks it up, knowing a sword is only as good as the one swinging it. Armed with that thought and the blade in hand, he strides toward the monstrous snake. The creature launches itself at him again, moving like lightning. Dojan shoots up, proudly telling the creature it should feel honored that he's going all out to take it down with a sword, even with the sword being a bit rough. This dude goes all out, unloading a flurry of epic cuts that leave the snake's body in shambles. What starts as a serious fight wraps up with the snake going down in a hilarious finale. He's called the sword god, not the fist god. Even though the sword is super beat up after the fight, he picks it up, believing that a sword is only as good as the person using it. With that in mind and the blade in his grip, he strides towards the giant snake. The creature lunges at him again, moving at crazy speeds. Dojan counters by leaping high into the air, proudly claiming that the beast should be honored. He's going all out to take it down with a sword. Despite the sword's janky condition, this guy goes all out, slicing so fast that it leaves the snake's body totally wrecked. The serious battle turns into a wild conclusion, with the snake gasping its last breaths. Background while our dude's sword turns to dust. Good thing he took that beast out while it was still hanging on. With the monster boss down, Dojan thinks up a dope move that I don't really see many other heroes using. He pops off one of the creature's fangs, thinking it could make a slick short sword with some work. Calling this his reward for the grind, he steps out of the gate. By the time he's out, it's already a lit starry night. He definitely spent more time at the B-rank gate than he thought he would. And considering how things went down, it just pushed him to get back to full power. Plus, he's kinda glad his old buddies aren't around to see him in this weak state, cause that'd be super embarrassing. After the hunt, he heads to appraise and sell his magic stones. Right in front of him, there's actually another hero rolling in with his fat stash of magic stones. But the cheap receptionist treats him like trash and reminds him that the commission rate is still at 40%. Even this newbie can feel the shady vibes coming off that inflated rate. He even calls it out, saying he's just a regular dude. The receptionist, just like with Dojan, insists their rate is the lowest around for appraisals. The gate center's only 5%, but that's before taxes hit. From the shady appraiser's view, this is a sweet deal for heroes that racks them good cash. They hand over the cash to the hero, who doesn't complain much, except he's low-key worried about the guy's wrecked face. The funniest part, this dude is still rolling with the same script even after taking a beating. He downplays it, saying some psycho wrecked his guards and left him looking like this. The hero thinks it's on the receptionist for having low-tier guards chilling at the C rank level. I mean, rank isn't everything in their world. Skill matters a ton, too. Rank is just a fake front for abilities, and it's only kept updated to keep the system running smoothly. The hero points out that people of the same rank can vary wildly in skill, so they can't all be treated the same. Plus, there's a massive difference between a lame guard just sitting around and a hero actually out there hunting monsters. Even though he's dropping some solid knowledge, the Joker receptionist just wants him to quit talking and leave already, which he does, saying he'd help the little dude if he ever needed it. As he's bouncing, our guy walks right past the dude looking colder than ever. The moment the receptionist spots him, he flinches and freaks out. He points at Dojan, yelling that this is the psycho who messes people up. Turning back to check them out, the hero is actually impressed. He notices our dude's lean build for his height, but the fact that he just wrecked the guards here gets him ready to throw down, wondering if he's the troublemaker. The thing I dig about this dude is that he ain't offended by small stuff. He honestly thinks Dojan is abusing his hero powers by bullying normies in real life. Totally far from the truth, since he only knows one side of the story, but it's cool to see some realistic characters. The receptionist is loving the drama, knowing this guy is a 7-year hero veteran. If anything goes sideways, he can easily pull strings to mess with Dojan. Not even tripping over who he is, our dude just turns back and tells the old man to bounce. This only sets the guy off, cause now it really looks like he's acting like a jerk. Dojan asks if the guy is trying to get revenge on him, hearing that the veteran hero gets pissed, but being the responsible hero that he is, and with all that experience, he knows going against another hero is a bad idea cause it usually leads to serious consequences. It's even a worse death rate than against monsters. Remembering that, bro chills out and turns his back, leaving the receptionist totally speechless. Dojan turns to the shady appraiser and asks if he's got a problem. Before the guy can spit it out, he throws a bag full of magic stones to get appraised and turned into cash. These shiny babies are all top-tier magic stones, raising serious questions about who this guy really is from the receptionist's viewpoint. Adding it up, the total comes out to 150 million. Looks like a lot at first, but to Dojan, it's way too little for a whole day of hunting. He asks for the cash, but the receptionist reminds him they gotta deal with that commission first, which gives our boy a scary vibe. Remembering the rate is just 1% for their deal, he cools down and tells the guy to get him the rest of the cash. Inside the appraiser's head, he's thinking about taking out his frustration on Dojan for being so ballsy. But that's just in his head. Speaking of which, the receptionist adds that there needs to be a thumbs up from upper management for that big of a pay. Out of the guy's imagination for having so much nerve. But it's only in his mind he can go that far. The receptionist chimes in that they need to get upper management to approve an amount this big. Without wasting any time, Dojan demands that the approval happens ASAP, so the dude quickly dials up his boss, whispering about their situation. Cause it usually ends in deaths, you know. The death rate's even higher than fighting monsters. Remembering that, bro literally chills out and turns his back, leaving the receptionist speechless. Dojan shoots a look at the shady appraiser and asks if he's got a beef he needs to sort out. Before the guy can even respond, he throws a bag of magic stones to get appraised and turned into cash. These shiny gems are all high-grade magic stones, which really makes you wonder who this guy is from the receptionist's perspective. He tossed a bag full of magic stones to appraise and convert into cash. These shiny treasures are all high-grade stones, which really makes you question who this guy is from the receptionist's viewpoint. Totaling it up, it adds up to 150 million. Sounds like a ton at first glance, but to Dojan, it's way too little for a whole day of hunting. He asks for the cash, but the receptionist reminds him about the commission rate they gotta take into account, which totally freaks our dude out. Remembering the rate is only 1% in their little deal, he calms down and tells the guy to sort out the rest of the cash for him. Now, in the mind of the appraiser, he wants to punch the dude for having so much nerve, but he can only imagine that. Speaking of which, the receptionist mentions they need upper management's okay for such a huge amount, for having so much nerve. But that's only in his imagination. Speaking of that, the receptionist points out they need approval from higher-ups for this big of a cash-out. Without wasting another second, Dojan demands they get that approval right away, so the guy quickly dials up his boss, whispering the details of what's going down. But before he can wrap up the deal, Dojan snags the phone and straight up tells the boss to hurry with the cash. The boss is cool with it, but he just wants the phone back in the hands of his employee. Handing it back with a grin, Dojan accidentally Let's be real, totally on purpose, smashes the phone into the wall. The employee is shaking like a leaf at the sight of his wrecked phone, while Dojan tells him to hustle and get the money ready, since things are squared away. And that's how the receptionist got a ton of bags packed with cash for the exchange. By the end, the dude's left feeling crushed about being bossed around like that. You might feel sorry for him, but let's not forget he's still scamming about half of what real heroes make, putting their lives on the line. What a loser. 10 minutes later, the boss bursts into his store fuming over why his workers ghosting him. The funny part, the receptionist has had enough and is peacing out with an instant resignation. The boss spots the employee's phone smashed into the wall, and it clicks for him what went down. He whips out his phone to call Juan, asking her to get over here like right now. Juan rolls up looking all famous with her stunning purplish pink hair. She's so recognizable that folks are hyping her up, calling her Hunu Yan and treating her like a total celeb. And honestly, she looks fire in that outfit. She strolls into the store and catches the receptionist off guard with her vibe, greeting him with a bright smile. There's a major reason everyone's flipping out about her. She's the 4th S-rank hero in the country. Nothing short of epic. People are buzzing that she's the boss's niece, but it makes him wonder why she's even here. Confirming the gossip, Juan says she got called in by her uncle to sort out a reckless hero. Curious about what's up, the stylish S-ranker plops down, ready to get the tea. Meanwhile, we find our dude out in the sun meditating, flexing that ripped bod. He's been on the hunt all day, but the loot he scored is straight up lame. With the way things are going, he can't help but stress over what's to come. First off, he needs to level up enough to take down S-rank Gates solo. Gotta train hard to get his original strength back, fam. You hear me, boys? Yup, it's training arc time. Dojan's biggest hurdle in this life is that, unlike back in the day, the mana density here is super low. This means even working his butt off to gather mana, it's gonna take 3 years minimum to get close to his OG power. Even more if things get tricky. On the bright side, he could aim for some sick gear for battle. The problem, even the crappiest gear costs a fortune, running into the hundreds of millions. That's just throwing money down the drain. Suddenly, a chill hits him like a freight train as he senses a dangerous presence. Locking eyes with Yun Yong, he scoops up the little girl in a flash and barks at everyone to get inside like ASAP. Back in the house, he locks up while his grandma is all anxious, wanting to know what's happening. The whole place shakes with a loud rumble, making her jump and freak out, asking if they're having an earthquake. Little Yun Young is in a total panic, but here's the kicker that only our dude knows. This ain't just an earthquake. He senses some sharp and violent energy outside. A rift just opened up in their world, and it's literally right above their house. Rushing to handle the crisis, he tells his fam to stay put inside since it's dangerous out there. Full speed ahead, he dives into the entrance of the rift, with the last thing he hears being his grandma and little sister calling out his name. The scene shifts to the Seoul Hero Association, where the squad is on high alert over the rift showing up in the Mapo region. It popped up after 63 days since the last one. Realizing the White Lion Guild is closest to Mapo, the manager gets everyone to contact the guild and alert the heroes nearby to help manage the situation. Looking closer at where the rift is located, he sees it's right on top of a residential home. This is a messy situation for them, since if a civilian steps into the rift, it's basically game over. Plus, if that person dies, it's going to unleash a wave of monsters in 10 days, turning the area into chaos and destruction. That monster wave would go wild, putting everyone's safety at risk. The manager's itching to know who the brave soul that went into the rift is. Turns out they know Seo Dojan is the one who went in since he's the resident. According to his grandma, he dove into the rift to protect his fam. From this, they figure he's not a hero. And that makes things way more complicated because an ordinary civilian escaping that rift is practically a miracle. The whole staff feels crushed and helpless since there's nothing they can do. In the next scene, we catch Dojan's ticked-off stepmom hearing the news about his new awakening, and she can't believe what she's hearing. And if the person inside dies, it's going to unleash a wave of monsters in 10 days, causing chaos and destruction. The monster wave would go wild, jeopardizing everyone's safety. The manager's keen to know who's gone into the rift. Turns out Seo Dojan is the brave one who took action to protect his family, but they think he's just in. The wave would spiral out of control, putting everyone's safety at risk. The manager is curious about the person who's gone into the rift, and they learn it's Seo Dojan, the home resident. His grandma says he dashed into the rift to defend his family, which leads them to conclude that he's not a hero. This complicates stuff since the odds of a regular civilian getting out of that rift are practically zero. The whole crew feels a wave of despair and helplessness, knowing they can't do anything. In the next scene, we spot Dojan's furious stepmom flipping out over the news about his new awakening, and she just can't wrap her head around it. Her assistant says that while he hasn't officially signed up with the Hero Association, they've confirmed he's definitely an awakened dude after his last gate adventure. She's totally bummed about it cause Kang Chol-woo was supposed to handle business, but now the target's even more jacked. Going nuts, she slams her fist on the table, wondering why they couldn't just take the guy out themselves. Plus, they actually charged her for such a lame job, which just sets her off more. She yells at Manager Lee, venting about Kang Chol-woo in a text. If he doesn't take out Dojan himself, he'll owe her 10 times the cash. But then her assistant drops a bombshell saying they might not even need to hit him up anymore because there's a new rift right above Dojan's house. After confirming he jumped into the rift, it's a no-brainer he won't be making it out alive. Hongju is stoked to hear this and vibes with the idea he won't survive. She chills out, actually acting normal for once, and tells her assistant to keep an eye on things until they hear more. Meanwhile, our dude just arrived in the rift zone. It's a forest, the same one he used to chill in during his younger days. The forest of Patiswa looks exactly how he remembers it, down to every little detail. Even the mana here feels just like before. Following the trail, he's all smiles, reuniting with the ultimate world tree. This tree is pumping out mana in its purest form, the most divine structure and the heart of the world's balance. When the old world fell apart, it all kicked off when this tree got set ablaze, messing up the mana flow forever. But in this rift dimension, the tree is doing great, just like he remembers. Though he's not sure why one thing's crystal clear, he can grab the mana he lost by soaking it up from the tree. Meditating under the perfect mana flow, our dude is getting his strength back clearer as day. He spent over 3 days just chilling like this, forgetting to eat, drink, or even take care of himself. 10 whole days went by, and all he could focus on was getting his breathing on point. On the 10th night, trouble comes knocking, messing up his zen vibes. Those alien-looking things called the Volsina swoop in, ready to blaze the tree like last time. But this time, our dude is here to stop the horror from going down again. The creatures charge at him, while Dojan wishes he had a water element sword to sweep them away easily. The fiery freaks roar as they head for him. But our guy's got so much mana flowing in him that he doesn't even need a weapon. He's a weapon, and those hands rated E for everybody. Reaching out to the beasts, he flexes his mana with such a vibe that it takes one of them down. The second critter is shook by his power. Let's break down what just went down. What he pulled off is mana release, not really telekinesis. It's like a blast attack using pure mana as a big bang. It's been ages since he used this move like this, since he's been low on mana reserves forever. Anyway, those Volsina freaks aren't finished yet. To strike back, they blast charged beams from their mouths. These sick beams launch toward our dude who's looking cooler than ever. His mana alone is enough to keep him safe from any hits. Striding toward the critters while lit up with a mana surge, he declares he's finally protecting the world tree. And now he's ready to have some fun and enjoy the fruits of his training. The ugly monsters are gearing up for another energy blast, but our guy quickly snags 2 of them and slams their mouths shut. Their own blasts charge up and explode inside, leaving behind a bunch of flaming headless corpses. The burnt bodies fade away, dropping 2 sweet magic stones for him to snag. But that's just the start. Dojan's living it up, pumped about unlocking something called the Eternal Ember. After taking these guys down, having a blast while slicing through the monsters and taking them out with a grin, he's finally stoked to load up on some mana stones from them. The one-sided massacre rolls on until he wipes out all of them. Dojan just hit the jackpot with how many stones they're dropping. Among the loot, he also stumbles upon a glowing gold coin or seed. This is the Eternal Ember, and he scoops it up in his hand. With this bad boy, he's taking back control of even more of his power as he crumbles the chip and unleashes its flames. The way he's playing with the Ember kinda gives off Sukuna vibes from Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, if we're being real, the smart move would be to keep stacking mana from the world tree, but his body's hit its limit for soaking up mana. The second way to do it is to soak up the Ember, totally switching up his mana and flipping it into fire mana. And he's all about that as his body blasts out flames. Sadly, back in his previous life, he had zero need for this and didn't even care about the Eternal Ember. But now it's a must to fully absorb those embers, and it takes about 10 whole minutes just to finish one. Lucky for him, this is the eternal ember as he scoops it up in his hand. With this, he's taking back control of even more of his power as he crumbles the chip and unlocks its flames. The way he's casually playing around with the ember kinda gives off Sukuna vibes from Jujutsu Kaisen. So in a perfect world, he'd keep stacking mana from the world tree. Casually vibing with the ember kinda reminds me of Sukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen. If we're keeping it real, the best play would be to keep stacking mana from the world tree. But his body's hit max for soaking up mana. The second option is to soak up the ember, totally flipping his mana to fire mana. And he's about that life as his body shoots out a wave of fire energy. Like in his past life, he didn't think this was necessary at all, and the eternal ember was just whatever to him. Now he really needs to absorb those embers, which takes a whole 10 minutes just to finish one. Good thing he's got the strategy down. The second way to get more mana is to absorb the ember, flipping his mana into fire mana. He's totally on it as his body fires up with flame energy. It's too bad that in his past life, he didn't think this was a big deal and didn't care about the eternal ember. But now, he's got to absorb those embers, and it takes like 10 whole minutes. He's got a whole stash of these things gathered up for him, so his goal is to soak up as many as he can. The whole rift situation has everyone buzzing. Reporters are all camped outside our dude's place while agents and crew are protecting the spot. Bang Jeonggu is super annoyed because some dude went in way too soon. I gotta say, he looks just like Yeonho from Solo Leveling, but with a fresher haircut, no lie. Then there's our main guy with blue hair. His name's Kim Hyun-woo, and he totally vibes with Dojan's move to save his sis. But Jeonggu isn't buying that excuse at all, calling our boy out for being all greedy and diving in without thinking about the fallout. It would have been chill if he just unalived himself the basic way. But if he takes a dirt nap in the rift, that place turns into a horror show with monsters spilling out, and that's the real deal. Hyun-woo asks Gilma for backup, and apparently, Gilma's just like, do your thing by the book. Hyun-woo's wondering why rifts are popping up all over the world in places like the US, China, Switzerland, Turkey, and the UK. That's why Gilma's losing his mind trying to handle so many rifts at once. This isn't something that happens every day. Yet, some countries are shutting down the danger no problem. But South Korea, they're mad as hell because one dude could totally mess things up. Jeonggu is so livid, he just wants to wreck the dude who went in and is praying for the rift to spit him out. Speaking of that huge purple gate, it's been 28 days since it popped up. Same deal for how long Dojun's been trapped inside. The hero team is freaked out and has already labeled the threat as a level 1 wave. Dojun's identity is still under wraps because of privacy stuff, but they're calling him Ordinary Person S for now. While the world is totally clueless about Dojan's real vibe, the head of the money-lending crew catches on quick and starts piecing things together. Even his sidekick backs up the report to make sure they got the lowdown on his involvement. Kim Young is like the right-hand dude to the president Hang Chong. Changzab is curious and want to know Dojan's odds of making it out in one piece. Yep, I said that as a total channel ritual. The One Piece is legit moving on. The assistant is pretty sure that an ordinary person has less than a 1% shot at surviving. But when they mention Dojun being treated as an ordinary, dude, it cracks Changab up. That same so-called regular guy put his crew in the hospital and had him bandaged for weeks. From the world's view, they're super underestimating the skills of the one civilian dude who jumped into the rift. Now, Changab's also curious about the chances of someone who's awakened surviving. For that, his assistant figures it basically depends on the hero's level, and it's hard to call it without legit info. Even Chong agrees that fighting skills are different from straight-up survival skills, and then it's a whole mess of complications when you're inside a rift for sure. Anyway, one thing's crystal clear. This jerk hasn't changed his game. Changab wants to keep Dojan's fam safe, but not for the right reasons. Nah, this scumbag is planning to sell off the organs of his loved ones if he doesn't make it back. And even if he does, he's gonna put the blame of debt on Dojan for having to take care of things. This guy is basically a leech. The scene switches to the Dope World tree. Here, our boy is going all out, hitting up his training grind while his body is charged with flame mana. He doesn't even know how long he's been at it, but he's been grinding hard and absorbing tons of firestones. Because of this, he's got so much fire mana that he can use and twist it however he wants. Plus, his fire resistance leveled up as a bonus. Comparing his past self to his current self in terms of firepower, he thinks he's leveled up just a bit by nailing this skill. Hugging the world tree, he gets a sweet moment in with it. It's always had his back when he was in need, even last time, And now, that's why Dojan is legit grateful for all it's done for him. As for his mana stones, he's crafted a little bag from vines to stash them all. With the stones collected and locked down, Dojan knows he might never see that angelic tree again. But even still, he's holding out hope that if the divine tree ever gets in trouble, he'll be ready to guard it with everything he's got. Now, I don't know about you, but I seriously, and I mean seriously, loved this chill moment. That night, Dojan finally pieces out into the real world coming out of the rift hole. Luckily, he doesn't sense anyone around, thinking most peeps probably think he ate it inside and that a monster wave is going to drop any minute. But he does feel someone strong close by. Deciding to track them down, he dashes to find out who it is. Not long after, he bumps into two agents, one super annoyed and the other chill, both Hyunwoo and Seonggu from last time. Now he gets that these guys are probably repping the association just by their outfits, which means if he gets caught, things are about to get messy. To deal with that, he whips up a fiery ball and hurls it into the sky like he means it. That attack ends up smashing across the building, causing a massive boom when it goes off. Hyunwoo and Seonggu are on high alert the second they hear that crash. Realizing it's actually fire, they choose to follow it up. There, they spot a bunch of folks looking totally freaked out. Seonggu asks what the heck is going down in all the chaos. Meanwhile, our dude is totally vibing with his fire skills so far. It's super accurate, so it's gonna work wonders for him. Thinking about his old buddy Tusk, he wonders if the mage would be impressed by his fire game now. After all, Tusk was known as the strongest fire mage around, and they were tight. Suddenly, Hyunwoo's instincts kick in and tell him to check for the rift. It seems to be going nuts right in front of them. It fades away into the fog. Both agents rush to the scene to see what's up. When they get there, they can't even believe the rift's tie to their world is gone. As for our dude, he's just cruising to his next spot without a care. News hits the next morning about the rift that was active for a whole month in Mappo. They report that the rift vanished 29 days after Seo Dojan stepped into the area, showing that the Hero Association's worries about the monster wave were off base. They've got no clue about the random disappearance of the rift, and they're busy trying to figure out what went down. Meanwhile, they're struggling to deal with the fire that erupted when the rift vanished in a junkyard. Now, this leads everyone to think that Seo Dojan is dead and that this is just karma for his own mess. Unbeknownst, watching the mixed reactions from the crowd as some feel sorry for the kid who supposedly lost his life. Sadly, the rift's disappearance is totally crushing news for our hero. He's heartbroken that he can't connect with the World Tree anymore. Even though he can't protect the World Tree, there's still one thing he can keep safe in his life. And that brings us back to the HCS capital. Inside, the fools are busy celebrating Dojan's death, thinking they can wipe out the old lady and his sister next. Changzab is just the kind of guy who's all about squeezing the life out of folks. One jerk is saying they should let the little sis grow up so they can use her in other ways. While they're yapping away carelessly, a familiar voice pipes up and demands to see their boss. The scene cuts off right there, and we catch a glimpse of Changab humming and going about his day. He's feeling good that Dojan is finally out of the picture and dead for good. His assistant goes over their schedule for today. Apparently, he's free most of the day, except for lunch with another CEO. Hearing that, he's stoked because tonight he can hit the club under Madam Kang. It's just mindless chit-chat until he walks into the building. As he's climbing the stairs, he sees his guys being tossed around like rag dolls. Their blood's everywhere, and the whole mess is caused by someone he thought was done for. Our boy throws him to the ground and tells the scumbag Changab to crawl back like a dog. That bone-chilling demand has the president of the company shaking in his boots. Our boy steps up like the real boss and takes his throne. He then repeats his command to the clueless Changab, who is still trying to wrap his head around the shameless order. Without a beat, he crawls like a puppy. Ruthless as always, Dojan then orders him to bark because he deserves to be humiliated like an animal. His loud and clear command has Changab whining in shame. It takes a second for him to finally bark, but our boy isn't even close to satisfied. He makes sure to turn him into a total animal by forcing him to bark over and over so everyone can hear. The president is now less than human, just like he treats the people around him. Dojan points out that lowlifes like him only act nice on the surface, but they'll stab you in the back at any chance they get. Declaring his filthy name, he chillingly tells the guy that he's got a ton of experience dealing with second-rate individuals like him, pleading and begging for mercy. Chong-so says he's ready to be a loyal dog if that's what it takes, but Dojan has seen enough and slaps him hard across the face. Just that hit knocks the breath out of the guy and makes him spit blood. His assistant is watching the whole thing go down until his name gets called. Dojun turns to him as the new boss of the company and suggests he stop working for a dirty guy like that. Knowing these guys are just waiting to stab others in the back, he tells the assistant to take Chang out with full permission. Of course, that's a big ask for a reliable servant like him. He apologizes and protests, saying their leader has a lot of connections, so things will get messy if he's the one taking over instead of Changob on behalf of him. The assistant begs Dojun to cut the guy some slack just this once. However, Dojun doesn't want to mess around with plain words in front of them. He suggests wrapping Chang's body in a barrel and dumping all evidence into the endless ocean. After all, it's just one of the things these punks are good at doing. Seeing that the boss's lackeys aren't up for it, tossing the barrel and ditching all the evidence in the vast ocean. It's kind of their specialty, you know. And since the boss's peeps ain't down to help, our dude's got a totally different vibe with these guys. Dojan straight up threatening the whole crew, saying he's gonna feed them to the monsters if they don't follow his orders. No joke. Just hearing that made Changab turn into a complete wreck. He's begging like crazy for his life, swearing he won't ever backstab Dojan and will always be loyal. Now, this makes our hero do some serious thinking. Even though he could take out Cheongsab right now and wave goodbye to all his problems, there's something changed in him this time around. Honestly, Dojan's gotten softer compared to the cold-hearted guy he used to be. So he decides to help the dude out, and I can totally see Changab getting all spiritual after this, praying to God that he doesn't tick Dojan off again. He shakes the hero's hand, promising to always have his back. But hold up, something's off. Why is his hand surrounded by crazy hot flames? Yep, even though Dojan's a bit softer now, he still can be savage. Locking eyes with the dude, he makes it clear this is his last shot. Then Dojan just goes ahead and rips his hand off like it's nothing, turning it into burnt mush. By the end of it, he struts out, ignoring that president's screams. He leaves them with one last warning. If any one of them gets in the way of his fam again, Dojan will personally make sure they're gone for good. As for their new gig, they've got a lifetime job, protecting his family. Now that's how you deal with traitors. Officially, Seo Dojan was just another blip in the universe that disappeared with the rift. But in reality, he's chillin' at the local Whackdonald's. The Government Hero Association and all the media just brushed past him like he was yesterday's trash. They all treated the civilian who went into the rift like he was a goner. Even if he came out shouting he was alive, no one would believe it. Plus, popping back after a solo rift run would just bring him more headaches. That quiet dude Huang Chang is helping him find a fresh pad because he wants to take his time moving. Dojan finally got to treat his sister to some bomb fast food. He also spilled the tea about moving to a better neighborhood, and she couldn't be happier. Now she can roll into kindergarten like all the other kids and hit up elementary school next year. But when school came up, little Yun Yong was all bummed. Dojan felt the shift. He's used to taking out beasts, but dealing with a kid's feelings is kinda new for him. He was shocked when his sis spilled how the other kids tease her for being an orphan. Hearing his cute little sister's struggles made Dojan's heart drop. If she doesn't want to deal with those mean kids, she absolutely doesn't have to. Those little punks will get theirs eventually. Finding out that she wouldn't have to go to kindergarten and deal with bullying, Yun Yong was totally stoked. Inside, Dojan's plotting to send his little sis to a fancy private school where no one would dare look down on her. That night, Seo Dojan found out that Kim Yong had stuck his grandma and sister in some random motel while he was out in the rift. This dude almost broke his back trying to sweet-talk his way out of it. He said the motel is run by their company, so it's safer than anywhere else. Dojan's just too tired to mess with the lackey tonight, so he walks into the room and sees his grandma again. Little Yun Yong leaps at him with a bear hug, and Grandma grabs his hand, tears rolling down her cheeks. She's just super glad to see her grandson back alive. At first, the tough warrior was stunned, but feeling the love from his fam warmed him up, and he smiled. Little Yun Yong is all about Whackdonald's, so they've been hitting that totally legit place a lot. Today, she starts asking about Big Bro's hero job. When asked if she likes having a hero for a brother, Yun Yong just shrugged and said she doesn't. It's cool that heroes are strong and awesome, but they're always in danger fighting those terrifying monsters. Sometimes they even end up dead. All little Yun Yong really wants is for her brother to stick around and live with Grandma and her for forever. Dojan's so used to mindless killing that having someone care about him is a totally new vibe. Back in his harsh past life, he was the last human standing. He battled monsters and creatures you wouldn't believe. He lost a lot along the way. Now that he's got a second shot in a different world, something truly precious is by his side. Feelings he thought were long gone are starting to bubble up again. In this world, maybe he can actually find happiness. Maybe he can just chill and live a peaceful life filled with love. While he was feeling all warm and fuzzy inside Korea's Hero Association was in total chaos. Nate Wong, the founder of the Korea Hero Association and the director of the World Hero Federation, has been stressing out over the rift situation, or lack thereof. Their best peeps checked out the site, but no fresh leads have popped up. Not knowing what's going on with his territory is driving the founder nuts. It's not crazy to think a rift that just vanished could pop back up at any moment. His assistant was trying to echo his worries. She figured it would have been better if a wave had just hit. At least they wouldn't have to stress about surprises. Director Tai Wong cuts her off before he loses it. While he's worried about the what-ifs, he's kinda glad nobody got hurt. Nai Wong is like one of the top 100 heroes everyone respects and considers super strong in the world. Word is, if he ever ran for president, he'd totally crush it and get the most votes ever. His voice alone could take down big companies if he wanted to. Luckily, he's not into the whole power of a nation thing or cashing in like a corporate boss. All he really cares about is keeping his peeps safe. In other words, he's a real one. Even if it takes a hot minute, he wants a deep dive investigation around the rift's edge. The folks living nearby are already down to sell their places to the association, so that's a piece of cake. To sweeten the deal, Taiwan wants to throw in more than the market price for their homes. That's the least they can do after all this hassle. All the trustworthy sources are saying there's been rifts popping up in different places worldwide. No matter how you look at it, something's definitely going down. The United States and China have already started handling their rifts. Among the major players, the United Kingdom is in the biggest hot mess. While reliable and seasoned heroes are out there tackling other rifts, the UK squad is totally trash. Speaking of them, the month-long mission trying to fix the UK rift has flopped hard. The rift wave is officially happening now, and the city and its peeps are just acting like it's another day. In the crowd was Seo Dojan, just blending in like any other pedestrian today. He's headed to his fave shop in the Hero Complex. When he walked in, the dude at the counter instinctively greeted him, but totally choked when he saw his face. Every hair on his body stood in fear when he spotted the black-haired guy. Thankfully, his manager is in the store today, so he won't deal with this sadistic customer solo. The manager quickly closed up the paper he was reading and looked up. His voice was chill, but had that angry edge. This is the guy who's been forcing his wimpy cashier into buying lame crystals. Dojan casually tossed his backpack on the floor like he owned the place. It's actually awesome that the manager is around since it'll speed up selling those magic crystals. Mr. Manager was expecting another pile of low-grade crystals to spill out everywhere. He's not interested in that small-time junk. Dojan hates being turned down when he's just trying to score a fair trade. No sane manager would settle for just a 1% fee. It'd be better if the kid just bounced. Dojan made it clear that ditching him would be a massive mistake the manager would seriously regret. The manager kept brushing the young man off, not even bothering to check the bag. This is the last heads-up he'll give before things get real. In response, Dojan kicked the backpack over, spilling its contents all over the floor tiles. Both the cashier and manager instantly recognized the magic properties of those stones. That scrappy bag was actually stuffed with Hero's magic crystals, a legendary treasure that money can't buy. Dojan has a solid idea of how much these babies are worth. He knows he's holding something premium. You see, the Hero's magic crystal was once used by a notorious Mexican drug lord, coerciman, in next-gen drug making. One wild night, a lab accident flipped his life and everyone's view on that little rock. The Hero's magic crystal caused Korsaman to wake up as this super strong hero. Since then, the crystal's been a priceless gem for hero awakenings and mana boosts. This energy source is just ridiculously rare and classified as ultra high-end. As a wicked power move, Dojan ordered those dudes to pack their stuff back up and bounced. Mr. Manager flipped his rude vibe into a welcoming one real quick. He even walked Dojan to their VIP seats and offered him some drinks, while his cashier polished the crystals. Dojan loved flipping the script. One minute he's getting kicked out, the next, he's chilling with a drink in hand. His opening demand was full price and a 0.5% commission. As soon as the manager showed signs of hesitation, Dojan threatened to bail on the deal. In past trades, he'd gone for 1%. Now, he was just lowering that sad rate even more. Honestly, he was just annoyed. In response, the manager bowed his head and tried to give the most sincere apology he could muster. But Dojan's overhearing fake apologies. They can either take his deal or he's out of there. It's that simple. At the counter, the cashier was totally cursing Dojan for being such a rude jerk. Seeing that his acting wouldn't convince the kid to give him a bigger cut, the manager jumped in and went on a long lecture about magic crystal markets and pricing. Dojan couldn't care less about that long-winded talk, though. He finished his drink and got up from the seat, which made the manager freak out. Not wanting to let the deal of a lifetime slip away, the manager threw out a 9% commission. That didn't work, so he tried 8%. The desperate plea went down to 7, 6, and 5. At that point, his shop wouldn't even make a dime. While the manager was in complete despair, Seo Dojan sprang into action. As soon as the manager showed signs of hesitation, Dojan threatened to bail on the deal. In past trades, he'd gone for 1%. Now he was just lowering that sad rate even more. Honestly, he was just annoyed. In response, the manager bowed his head and tried to give the most sincere apology he could muster. Well, Dojan is tired of hearing empty apologies. He was seriously just lowering that rate out of frustration. The manager lowered his head, trying to give the sincerest apology he could muster. Dojan is just overhearing empty apologies. They can either accept his rate or he'll take his business elsewhere. It's that simple. At the counter, the cashier is secretly cursing Dojan for being such a rude prick. Seeing that his acting wouldn't convince. At the counter, the cashier is secretly cursing Dojan for being such a rude prick. Seeing that his acting wouldn't convince the kid to give him a bigger cut, the manager jumped in and gave a long speech about magic crystal markets and pricing. Dojan didn't have time for that nonsense, though. He downed his drink and stood up, which made the manager panic. Feeling the deal of a lifetime slipping through his fingers, the manager offered a 9% commission. When that didn't fly, he went down to 8%. The back and forth continued until he hit 5. In that range, there was no way the shop would make a profit at all. While the manager was deep in despair, Seo Dojan seized the moment and agreed to settle. He finished his drink and stood up, making the manager freak out. Feeling the deal of a lifetime slipping away from his fingers, the manager threw out a 9% commission. That didn't work, so he offered 8%. The back and forth kept going from 8 down to 7, 6, and 5. At that point, there was no way his shop would make any profit at all. While the manager was totally in despair, Seo Dojan pounced. And he's cool with settling for just 1%, showing some respect for what they've been through. But inside, the manager is dying to scream and flip out at that obvious scammer. He just can't let go of the goods. Then Dojan dropped some news that almost made the manager freak out and wet himself from excitement. Besides the one bag he brought today, he's got like 7 more bags of those dope crystals. So they whipped up the contract real quick and signed it off. A few minutes later, $67 billion just hit Seo Dojan's bank account. That's around $48 million. At this pace, his $110 billion palace is totally in reach. The real issue is scoring more high-grade magic crystals through the regular gates. It's a total grind. If only he could find a way to bounce around through the rift zones, he could snag treasures like a boss. While he was checking out his phone, a government message popped up for everyone in the nation. They finally announced the wave outbreak in the southern part of the United Kingdom. For now, it's a no-go for anyone thinking of hitting the UK. After reading this real-world drama, Dojan lost interest in messing with the shop manager. In the old days, he wouldn't have hesitated to jump in and deal with the rift himself, no matter which country or association was involved. But he's not that dude anymore. He's got better things to deal with. Tonight dinner is on Dojan and they're going for the fancy meat. Little Yun Yong's mouth was watering over the cartoonish sight of that sizzling pork and beef on the grill. The pricey meat and tasty sides just kept showing up at their table. Grandma worried about their tabs slowed down and asked her grandson if they were good. $250,000 for 100 grams is kinda wild. Dojan brushed off her concerns. After cashing in big from his crystal haul, they could feast like kings without making a dent in his bank account. Yun Yong's first bite of that over-the-top beef had her totally hooked on the flavor. Dojan just kept piling on more to the grill while Grandma watched nervously. Heck, they've got another batch of fresh ribs, prime, ribeye, strip loin, and skirt meat on the way. At this point, the amount of food is just nuts. How could 2.5 people even finish all that Grandma is seriously underestimating how much a main character can chow down to ease her worries. Little Yun Yong nudged Grandma to give the pricey stuff a shot. Unable to say no to her sweet girl, Grandma finally caved. One bite of that high-end meat was all it took for all her worries to just melt away. After that, the happy family dug into their lavish dinner full of giggles and joy. Meanwhile, Dojan had no clue that a super attractive young woman had just walked into the restaurant. Heads turned, and people nearly broke their necks trying to catch a glimpse of her. She headed straight for Seo Dojan and grabbed his attention with purpose. She just wanted a quick chat, nothing too wild. But before she could spill the beans on why she was there, Dojan cut her off, annoyed that she interrupted dinner time. If she wanted to chat, she could wait until he was done eating. Hun Yan pulled out her business card, hoping Dojan would chill once he heard her name. But to her surprise, Dojan just kept on grilling and enjoying his meal, totally ignoring her. So the famous S-rank hunter swallowed her pride and settled into the restaurant's waiting area. With a star like her just hanging out in a regular spot, all eyes were on her. Dudes and dudettes alike were stealing glances at the woman who stood on top of the hero game. She's ranked 4th in the national S-class hero leaderboard, and most folks would even put her in the top 10 of the hottest heroes worldwide. Everyone around was wondering who the heck was making Hun Yan wait. Ignoring the whispers buzzing around her, Juyan thought back to their brief interaction just moments earlier. As far as she knew, Seo Dojan had only entered his first gate 2 months ago. He made it out alive and is now suspected of being awakened. People thought he'd kicked the bucket in that recent Mapo Rift incident, but here he is alive and munching with his fam. Beyond all the weird stuff, just one intense look from the young guy had an S-ranker like Jian on high alert. No way a newbie could climb to S-rank in under 2 months, right? Even that rich dude Calfmore who threw his cash at Magic Stones took about 5 months to hit the top. Trying to make sense of her feelings, Juan figured Dojan must have some kind of secret skill. Finally, Dojan Grandma and little Yun Yong wrapped up their dinner, their bellies full, and their vibes high. Near the exit, Juan headed over to finally chat with the mysterious guy. But before she could even say hi, another crew strolled into the restaurant, acting all high and mighty. Dojan's eyes sharpened when he spotted the guy. This sketchy dude didn't expect to see Dojan alive and well after their crazy adventure in one of those killer gates. Kang Chil-woo, the maniac himself. The guy was even amused by Dojan's cockroach-like ability to survive. Even Juan recognized the troublemaker with just one glance. The tension in the air went up a notch as silence fell over the restaurant. Dojun decided to ignore the loser's shallow jabs and called Juyan over instead. Chi-woo was stunned to see an S-rank hero chatting with the cockroach, strutting around the restaurant like he owns the place. Dojan's gaze got sharper when he spotted this skeevy dude. This sketchy guy didn't expect to see Dojan still kicking after their last encounter. Their wild adventure at one of those deadly gates with that crazy Kang Chil-woo had left a mark. Dude's actually loving Dojan's cockroach vibe. It's like he can't get rid of him. Even Juan clocked the troublemaker right away. In the middle of the restaurant, things got tense as an awkward silence hung in the air. Dojun totally brushed off the jerk's weak disses and called Juyan over. Chi-woo was shocked to see an S-rank hero chatting it up with the cockroach. Dojan asked her to look after his fam for a bit. All she's got to do is wave down a taxi so they can peace out and head home. It'd be way easier if they were out of sight while he goes to collect this overdue debt from a loser. Luckily, Hoonian is super chill. She totally did what Dojan asked and told Grandma and the little girl that everything was straight. She waved by, but you could tell they were still worried. John was just standing there all awkward as the taxi took off. Right after they zoomed away from the restaurant, a loud slap echoed inside. With his fam gone, Dojan could finally drop the nice guy act and go for it. He moved so fast that Chi-woo didn't even see it coming. All he felt was a sharp pain in his cheek. Totally embarrassed from that epic fail, Cheol-woo gritted his teeth and charged in to get back at him. One of the servers tried to break it up, scared the Awakeners might wreck the whole place if things got crazier. Her totally reasonable request was met with some mad aggression. Thankfully, she didn't get hurt too badly. Seo-jun calmly told everyone to bounce and clear the room. Cheol-woo is super easy to trigger. He's just a dumb musclehead who can't even think of a good comeback. For that, he got smacked right in the face. Dude was totally caught off guard when a fist hit his head. Kang Chao-woo is the jerk who trapped the original Seo Dojan in a gate and left him for dead. Even though he wasn't personally dissed, our MC still hates this loser and wants a word. Seo-woo, the goblin-looking goon, was laughing while bringing up how Dojan's evil stepmom caused all this mess. Realizing it was easy to get info from this idiot, Dojan pulled out his phone and hit record. He just needs a solid recording of the confession, and his life will get way easier. Once again, Chi-woo was insulted by his chill vibe. He powered up his fist, called Dojan's mom a loser, and came in hot. He's trying to finish the job he couldn't before. He wants to take out Seohan for good. Too bad for the big goon, his basic moves are no match against Dojan's sick chi skills. Dojan met the crazy punch with just a light touch and sent that fist flying like it hit a bouncy wall. Kang Chi-woo had never seen anything like it. Usually he'd just power through anything to take someone out. Now it looked like he was facing someone way above his pay grade. Suddenly, he got knocked off his feet. Dojun tracked his body's movement like a hunter playing with its prey. Sounds of fists smashing into skulls echoed around the restaurant as the server from earlier tried her hardest to call the cops. Right before she could hit the call button, a delicate hand snatched the phone away. With a big smile, Hunu Yan told the server she'd handle everything, so no need to bring in the cops. The server was just relieved to see a friendly face during her meltdown. Slaps, scratches, and punches were raining down on Kang Chi-woo, not giving him a single chance to catch his breath. As far as John knew, this dude was a B-rank hero. With that rank, it's rare for anyone to beat him up this easily. After this beatdown, Dojan might actually be an A rank. Well, even if that's the case, this fight still feels super one-sided. Before things got worse, Hunu Yan carefully called out to Dojan to pause for a sec. She was just worried that Kang Chi-woo might not make it if the beating kept going. Deciding to hear her out, he dropped the limp goblin goon to the ground and wiped his hands off. Seeing that there's clearly some beef between the two, Jian asked Dojan how much he knows about Kang Chi-woo. Dojan might not have the whole scoop, but he knows enough about this loser to get his revenge. Hunu Yan warned him that Kang Chi-woo is tied to Kang Yong-pyo, an S-rank hero. Well, Dojan already knew that, and he didn't think it was a big deal. Juan had never met anyone so wild and reckless. This dude seriously doesn't care about the fallout from crossing an S-ranker. Hyunju Yan explained that Kang Yong-pyo is really protective of his troublemaker cousin. This restaurant drama is definitely going to get back to that powerhouse. When it does, blood's gonna spill. Dojan laughed at Juyan's worries. He's the last person who's scared of some hotshot S-ranker. More than worrying about future problems, he's just annoyed that Juan knows so much about his life. Now that the goblin goon is out, Dojan's anger has shifted to that nosy S-ranker. Standing face to face, the wild young dude stared her down. Hun wasn't a pushover. She wasn't about to break from a simple, intimidating stare. Switching the topic, she apologized for her surprise visit and brought up her point. She was just sent by her uncle to talk. After hearing about the bag of hero magic crystals he sold off, Jin wanted to snag the rest. She's ready to buy every piece he has, no matter the price. Doyan warned her that it won't come cheap. He's got a treasure trove of goodies stockpiled after all. She assured him that the resources of an established S-rank wouldn't be a problem. More than worrying about future problems, he's just annoyed that Juan knows so much about his life. Now that the goblin goon is down, Dojan's anger has shifted to that nosy S-ranker. Standing face to face, the wild young dude stared her down. Hun wasn't a pushover. She wasn't about to break from a simple, intimidating stare. Switching the topic, she apologized for her surprise visit and brought up her point. She was just sent by her uncle to talk. After finding out about the bag of hero magic crystals he sold off, Jian wanted to grab the rest. She's down to buy every piece, no matter the price. Doyan warned her that it wouldn't be cheap. He's got a stash of precious treasures stockpiled, no joke. She reassured him that chatting with an established S-rank and their boss wouldn't be a biggie. Heroes are kinda wild, right? But this dude, he ain't against making a deal. Just has one tiny condition before he sells anything. No biggie, just a little favor, you know. For someone like Hunu Yan, it ain't a big deal. But somewhere else in the city, the sound of fancy bottles crashing down is echoing. Dojan's wicked stepmom is flipping out after hearing some news about her dead stepson. Her crew was convinced the kid was a goner in the rift. Now she finds out this dude Dojan's alive like some kind of tough cockroach. Press F for the bald man seriously being her boss must be a total nightmare. Can't really blame him for the mix-up though. Even the Hero Association thought Dojan kicked the bucket, but evil stepmom ain't here for excuses. She wants results, and she wants them now. As if that wasn't bad enough, they got word that Kang Chi-woo just got his butt handed to him by Dojun. At this point, it's obvious Seo Dojan knows who's really behind his near-death experience. Evil stepmom felt that cold sweat when she realized she might be in deep trouble. It ain't Dojan she's afraid of, but the hassle she'll face when her pops or husband finds out about her shady biz. She can cover her tracks, but if the media gets wind of it, her group's stock will plummet. So she told her peeps to shut down the media leaks like yesterday. If they screw this up, T Group and W Group are totally ghosting on all deals and ads. First up, she needs the police in her back pocket. Good thing evil stepmom's got her crew ready to handle everything. Knowing her team's got some skills took a bit of weight off her soul. Then bald director Lee whispered about how no matter how much they cover up, it won't fix the root of the problem. On that note, bald director might know how to solve this mess. We just gotta use Kang Chi-woo's cousin, the infamous Kang Yong-pyo, to handle it. Even stepmom knows about this S-ranker. Kang Chi-woo might be seen as trash in the hero scene, but everyone knows he's tight with his powerful cousin. Reality check, Kang Chi-woo's just a pawn doing the dirty work for his cousin. Both of them are a little off. If Chi-woo gets nabbed by the cops and bashed in the media, it'll mess up the S-rank hero's rep too. Actually, he's already making moves to fix this PR nightmare. Evil stepmom's decided she needs to meet with Kang Yong-pyo ASAP. Plus, that dude Hwang Chong Sub from HS has straight up teamed up with the enemy. He's taking care of Dojun's fam now. For that, stepmom wants a prosecutor on her line like right now. Anyone who ditches her crew is gonna pay. The next day, we're rolling with a squad of heroes entering one of Korea's 37 rift zones. Out of those rift zones, 5 are getting locked down as secured gates. The rest are only open for heroes in the association with schedules set. Today, Miss Hunu Yan is leading her own crew. With her S-rank ID, she can slide into any gate without a problem. Among the crowd of heroes decked out in fancy gear stood a dude in a totally worn-out hoodie. Hunu picked a rank Jong-un's Cleome Guild as her temporary crew for the hunt, getting to tag along with an S-rank. That's rare, so they're totally hyped. Juyeon figured she just wanted to spice things up and flex a little. But really, she set the whole thing up just to give the guy in the back a clear pass to the gate. Seo Dojan agreed to offload his entire magic crystal stash at market price if she lets him into the restricted rift zone. Dude just wants to make bank hunting in those tougher zones. Sure, rift zones have all kinds of treasure, but jumping into a hard one for some cash without a care, that's just nuts. But honestly, she's chill with it. She just needs those hero magic crystals. After a few minutes crawling through a dark tunnel, they finally popped out into a lit-up wooded area. Inju couldn't hold back her curiosity and started pestering Juyeon about who the mystery guy trailing them is. Juyeon just introduced Dojan as someone she knows, but nobody's buying that weak excuse. Inju guessed he might be Queen Jian's boyfriend. Over the buzzing, Juyeon gave Inju part of the truth and admitted that the dude was tagging along because she owed him a favor. It ain't every day an S-rank hero's got someone to owe. While the crew was lost in their own little convos, a giant shadow blotted out the sun above. Everyone looked up and spotted the beast. Being an A-rank guild, the Cleo heroes snapped to action, drawing their weapons and getting into formation. Their first encounter, the scary cockatrice. Juyeon, being the expert raider she is, took charge and shouted clear orders like a boss. Jingu and Dian took the defense while Sun Ho aimed for the legs. Before Juyeon could finish assigning roles, a figure zipped past everyone. With one epic leap, he closed the gap between himself and the flying beast. Dojun ignored the group plans and went for a solo showdown with the creature. The Cleo heroes were totally shocked. They'd never seen anyone so bold. Gathering power in his fist, Dojan geared up for first blood. Meanwhile, Guildmaster Inju was stressing about her horrible luck. They just walked in the gate, and a total pain in the neck already showed up. Before the squad could even get it together, Dojan had tossed his bag to the ground like it was nothing. Juan was calling the shots, zooming through the air like a crazy fast bullet. Dude was a total speedster. In one jump, he completely shut down the bird's flying game. Up in the skies, he owned the field with zero problems. His energy was lit and blazing. That massive chicken didn't even have the speed or reflexes to dodge his incoming hit. So it ended up taking a full-powered punch right to the beak. The bird was on the ground and the human was up in the clouds. Talk about a poetic twist. Dojan landed in front of the group without even breaking a sweat. The cockatrice looked like it was on its last legs, with his fist mark smack on its face. The Cleo Guild crew was just standing there, totally stunned with their S-rank powerhouse. They witnessed the madness that happened next. Dojan lifted his leg and started stomping on the bird's head until it was just a mushy mess. It might seem overkill, but taking down a cockatrice takes some serious force. Each stomp and kick made sickening sounds of bones crunching and blood splattering, leaving the gang in shock. Now, Inju was super curious about who this guy was. Honestly, Jun didn't really know either. All she knew was that Seo Dojan was a straight-up beast. Calling him just strong was an understatement for real. Only a handful of heroes could pull off what Dojan just did. Smacking down a cockatrice in one hit is no joke. Yuan downplayed it by bringing up her sister. That woman is on that elite list of badass heroes. Still, Inju couldn't get past the fact that a hidden powerhouse was rolling with them. She watched the whole thing go down completely in awe. Juyan noticed the young man's insane strength and quick decisions, her curiosity getting even deeper. She turned to Inju with a spontaneous change of plans. For now, she wanted to head to the center with Dojan, leaving the rest of the crew chilling on the edges. Juan was super careful as she approached the young man, skillfully carving up the cockatrice's body for some loot. Before she could say a word, he jumped in first, saying he wouldn't share loot with anyone who didn't help take down the kill. Luckily, Jian wasn't about to eyeball a few magic crystals. She just wanted to suggest they dive a bit deeper into the gate. Hit up somewhere more hardcore that matches his skills right now. With a grin, he jumped at the chance to hunt and loot more. Juan knew the layout of this gate pretty well, so she'd take the lead. All Dojan had to do was keep up so he wouldn't get lost. Out of nowhere, she bolted off into the distance, her speed creating a sonic boom. Dojan watched her fly off into the horizon. After tossing his bag on his back, he got into a running stance, charging up energy in his muscles. With a super quick first step, he kicked up a blast that nearly knocked the rest of the Cleome Guild heroes off their feet. Inyu thought if Juan was a bullet, then Dojan moved like light itself. Left behind by the two powerhouses, the other heroes turned to their guild leader for a new plan. Obviously, trying to keep up with those two was straight up impossible. Today, they just had to face facts. They were sidekicks and extras. Still, it was still a solid gate with loads of monsters lurking around the outskirts. In the real world, normal folks might see them as powerful A-rank heroes. But in front of a legit S-ranker, they didn't even register. Juin and that dude were on a completely different level than the whole Cleome Guild squad. Speaking of those two, their race through the woods was picking up speed, while maintaining insane speeds with ease. Yuyan kept glancing back for signs of Dojan. After not spotting him, she started easing up like maybe she had gone too hard on the initial sprint. Just when she thought about cooling it down, Dojan suddenly showed up beside her, asking if they could pick up the pace a bit. Yuyan nearly tripped her, focus shattered. She had never felt this before. Someone could actually keep up with her in a race. When it came to speed, she was one of the top 2 in the country, but that list might need a serious update since Dojan was making her eat dust. A little bit later, he stopped to tease her for being slower than he'd expected, even though she was clearly trying to flex her speed. Dojan had his gaze set on the horizon. In front of them loomed a massive mountain range that touched the sky. When he asked what was hiding in that rocky beast, Jen's face went serious. That place was the lair of the Thrift's boss monster, the Carcelian. You see, this so-called Carcelian is a giant 20-meter monster that looks like a crazy draconian wyvern. Juan didn't even want to entertain the thought of taking that beast down. You'd usually need at least 3 combat-oriented S-ranks to even have a shot against it. One thing Dojan knew about the Carcelian was that it might drop the imaginary grade magic crystal, a treasure just below the highest grade. Since that shiny reward was calling to him, he wasn't going to let it slip away. Obviously, Jian was totally against such a reckless idea. But Seo Dojan was ready to take on that draconic jerk, with or without her. Yuyan watched as he charged ahead, aiming to scale the mountains and slay the beast. She felt like she had no choice but to dive into the madness with him. Something dark was waiting for the duo inside the boss monster's lair, gearing up to hit the mountains to hunt the beast. She felt like she had to dive into this madness with him. Something dark is waiting for them inside the boss monster's lair. Totally vibing with mad confidence to take down a monster that even 3 top-tier heroes struggle with. Honestly, it's shaking Jian to her core. But you know what's even crazier? When she rolls up to the spot, she sees the Carcelian like totally dead at her feet. The whole fight's already wrapped up, and she has no clue what just went down. Our dude just casually snatches his knife from the beast's body, leaving her speechless. John can't even wrap her head around it. The creature he just took out isn't just any old boss monster. On that note, she starts talking about this legendary hero, Park Hale, who built a reputation for hunting down monsters like the Carcelians. Even though he's an S rank himself, the first time he went for the Carcelian, he was smart enough to bring 30 A rank heroes with him. And still, with all those precautions, the A rank heroes got wrecked and were all taken out in the fight. Park Hale was the only one from that crew who scraped by, barely hanging on after that boss fight. After that crazy moment, he decided to take another shot at the same monster. But this time, he brought one additional S rank and 100 A rank heroes with him. It was basically a small army at that point. The fight, it was super brutal. They concentrated on slicing the monster's wings to ground it. Back then, the Carcelian was completely bombarded by attacks from the heroes. This kind of reminds me of that debate about 100 dudes versus one gorilla that's been circulating lately. I'm betting on the dudes just saying. And that's pretty much what happened with the Carcelian, which ended up getting smashed. But still, only a few heroes made it out of that fight alive. The rest got wrecked by the monster's rage. The damage they took that day was so bad that Hale's guild, the Sweet Life, still hasn't bounced back 3 years later. And here's the kicker, this regular-looking guy just took down the same Carcelian without breaking a sweat. The wild part is with her constant glare. He reminds her she's not getting any of those sweet gems just for standing around and fighting the air. It might have annoyed her, but Jian's more focused on how ridiculous this guy is right in front of her. If she hadn't seen the battle herself, she'd never believe it went down like that. The same terrifying Carcelian got smoked and annihilated in a single hit by this one dude. Meanwhile, Dojan the champ has snagged this sick magic stone from the monster's body. He stares at it and tells her he doesn't even need an escort to kick it. From now on, he's good flying solo. He also brushes off taking the rest of the loot from the dragon like its claws and teeth. He shows zero interest in those and just turns to reject her, directly shocking the S ranker for real. Instead, he's all about collecting the monster crystals. He even goes so far as to let her keep all that loot as a kind of payment. Jian takes a quick look at the beast and figures she doesn't need anything from it either. Now it's evening, and the rest of his crew can't believe one guy managed to haul in 3 bags full of magic stones. It's wild even for the top-tier A rankers. For their guild to snag that many stones, it would usually take them a minimum of 20 hours. And with the quality of the goods, even more than 3 days. It makes you wonder who this guy is. They're all staring at Jian, who brought him along in the first place, and she looks just as lost as they do. Going off John's own words, the A-rank guildmaster can't wrap her head around how Dojan managed to beat the Carcelian without any solid gear. With this win alone, he's basically at the top of the hero ranks in Korea, unmatched in power. They're like, our boy is built differently. The A-ranker even thinks he might be the strongest dude on the planet at his level. It blows her mind. Speaking of Dojan, he returns totally wiped out, but he's got even more bags with him. Just 1 day of hunting, and he's got a mountain of loot. At this rate, the team's starting to think that no one will buy their story if they spill it outside. Dojan's insane powers are just too hard to wrap your head around. They're told not to say a peep about what went down today in the outside world, and that's something they have to just accept. The stunning S-ranker walks over to our dude and starts chatting about a bunch of stuff. From a distance, it looks like they're flirting or something, but that's just how their teammates see it. They probably want to convince themselves this is the start of a romance. They also think he's the only dude who actually vibes with John, especially given their monstrous strength. The ironic part is how the A-rank guildmaster quickly realizes that these two aren't the perfect couple she thought they were. Instead, it looks more like a straight-up argument from the expressions on their faces. She can't believe there's a guy out there who can talk down to Jian of all people. The wild part is how Dojan just hands her a bag and pieces out without a word. Blows the guildmaster's mind even more. As for the state of the backpacks and what he snagged inside, Jian states it loud and clear. Turns out Dojan's worried he'll gonna blow up as a celebrity if everyone finds out he took out the Carcelian. Since that's a major issue for him, he totally throws that weight onto her. When she hears this, they both just stand there speechless. But here's the kicker, the whole manifestation thing actually kicks in, and Juin gets super curious about this mysterious dude. The girl's got it bad. Meanwhile, over in another spot, we're diving deeper into the legendary S-ranker Hale. Dude's going all out on his punching bag like a beast. His assistant is just mind-blown watching him train because it looks like he's about to explode with rage. As we know, he's the head honcho of Sweet Life. The assistant tries to chill him out, reminding him that a little patience will take him far in tough times. The guildmaster totally vibes with that, thinking that those who doubt him will end up feeling his wrath. Soon enough, everyone's going to be singing his praises as the baddest guildmaster around. Then his assistant brings up Hyal's insane streak of hunting Carcelians, saying he'll be remembered as the hero who took one down with the smallest crew. The wild part is that title's never going to get taken from Dojan unless Stephen Hawking crawls out of the grave and pulls a fast one. The guildmaster shares his excitement with his assistant, bragging about his accomplishments, even though their guild's taken some major losses compared to where they were 3 years ago. But hey, the only thing that puts a smile on his face is knowing he's the one who's most likely going to take down the Carcelian, and his one-eyed servant totally agrees. Speaking of high-ranking heroes, we switch gears to Kang Yong-po's office, where he's reading up on Do-jun's crazy night with Chao Wu, how he wrecked Yong-po's cousin. Even though Chi Wu's game plan was to trap the guy for good, a plot twist flipped the script, leading to an awakening. Plus, the client who hired them to take out Dojan is actually the executive director, Hong Hee-ju, who's loaded. It makes zero sense for her to target someone right in front of Yong-po. That is, until he finds out that Dojan is actually her stepson. Even though the kid got brought into the family at 7, once Hee-ju's kid popped into the scene, Dojan got kicked out. That's got Yong-po chuckling, pointing out that even money can't save you from getting booted. Talking about payment for the hit, he finds out they're offering $3 billion for the job, which is chump change to him. And then there's Chi Wu, who's hanging by a thread after his showdown with Dojan, covered in burns and bruises. The cherry on top is that he lost his sight and is basically toast for life now. Just adds to the savage nature of Do-jun's methods, to the point where even a guy like Yong-po's gotta respect his moves. Yet Yong-po can't help but take pleasure in thinking he would have made sure to really mess Chi Wu up. At first glance, you might have thought he's better than his cousin. Now, it's pretty clear he's just as bad, if not worse. While they're talking about their battle, it comes up that Juin was around and apparently helped Dojan somehow. This blows his mind, and he starts digging for more deets about it. He doesn't get why Dojan's so special. Unfortunately, his assistant's in the dark too, because that whole meeting got swept under the rug. Losing his cool, Yong-po snatches his servant and yells at him to find out what's up with their relationship. Thinking they might have struck some deal, the assistant totally freaks out and dashes off to snoop. Yong-po's left throwing a fit, smashing things, thinking Hee-ju's crew is gonna come looking for him to clean up the mess his cousin made. But you know what? He's super down to take on the job for her. After all, she's loaded, got money like Andrew Tate, so it's a cakewalk for this greedy lowlife. Now let's shift to our boy who's heading home after the raid. He's stoked to have spent his time in a rift instead of just a gate for the usual hunting. But it gets tricky, cause he might need to keep Juin close to stay off the radar. Remembering their convo, she laid it out straight that people are gonna start asking who took down the Carcelian. Exposing that will bring major trouble. So for now, her plan is to stash the goods, and if he wants the fame, she'll gladly spill the tea to the world. In response, Bro tosses the bag over to her to keep all the loot, but it means he's got to find another way to chill and hit the rift zones cause leaning on Juin is too risky for her. Still, he knows he'll sleep like a baby tonight, since he'll be crashing in a sweet pad Changgob set up for him. But as soon as he steps into the house, he's freaked out by all the shoes lined up outside, meaning some unexpected peeps are in the mix. Walking into the room, he spots a gang of suited dudes. Gonna jump into the rift zone since relying on Juin just brings her drama. But tonight's sleep gonna be lit since he's crashing at this swanky pad Changgob hooked him up with. But when he steps into the house, he's hit with a wave of shock seeing all these shoes piled up outside. Unexpected guests for sure. He walks in and spots a whole crew of suited guys. The dude kinda gives off a super sad vibe like a toasted version of Nami from Jujutsu Kaisen just locking eyes with Dojan like a hawk. But Yun Yong rushes in, all hyped to see her bro while Dojan's just left confused about the whole scene. Prosecutor Park Chaolyong is making it super obvious who he is, throwing shade on the link between Dojun and Changgob. Since they're connected, Dojun is snatched up for an emergency arrest because he supposedly rolled with that shady money-lending crew ran by the sketchy CEO of HCS Capital. Just riding the wave, Seo Dojan didn't even fight it, surrendering to this so-called emergency arrest tied to Hwang Chang-seop's loan shark hustle. They slapped him in cuffs and tossed him into a cold, empty interrogation room. Inside that room, he could hear some big shot talking on the phone outside. The prosecutor who nabbed him was assuring someone that both Hwang Chang-seop and Seo Dojan were acting like good little boys. Before he hung up, the prosecutor thanked whoever for taking care of his kid's study stuff overseas. Then he slipped up and dropped Director Hong's name right in the range of Dojun's superhuman hearing. Strolling up to his quiet detainee, the prosecutor blabbed about why he decided to become a lawman. He straight up claimed he'd always wanted to boot out society's trash from the good and decent folks. Slamming down a thick stack of paperwork on the table, the scuzzy prosecutor made it known how much dirt he had on Seo Dojan. He tossed around some serious charges that could lock the kid away for at least 10 years. Plus, they scored more than enough statements from Hwang Chang-seop to take down everyone involved in the game. Seo Dojan didn't even flinch at those weak attempts to scare him. Not getting the reaction he was fishing for, Mr. Prosecutor let loose some cuss words, diving straight into the heart of the matter. Dojan, all chill, threw shade by asking if that Hong Heeju was behind this lame legality stunt. The prosecutor was totally shook, but shot down the accusations, claiming he's never even heard of that name. Dojun was like, these crooked clowns must be working with Hwang Chang-seop already. Dojun was just going with the flow to keep things cool, but at this rate, it might get really bad. Not backing down from Dojan's intimidating energy, the prosecutor bragged that people in his line of work weren't to be messed with. In reply, the young dude let out a hint of murder vibes to shut him up real fast. The prosecutor nearly freaked out right there, feeling that piercing stare like it was a major threat to his whole existence. Embarrassed that he got spooked by a handcuffed dude, the prosecutor wanted to man up and slap the crap out of him. But before he committed that last dumb move, some intern crashed in, asking him to step outside for a sec. They just got news about some wild mess-up in their file for Seo Dojan. The building's hero scanner pegged the kid as just a regular guy. Even after double-checking, the results still said the same thing. With everything Dojun's been involved in lately, how does that even make sense? Maybe they messed up calling the boy an awakener in the first place. The prosecutor got all his info from Hong Heeji's T group, so it's supposed to be legit. Right now, Dojan's a total enigma. How could they throw charges at someone who's labeled as a normal civilian when it's about superhuman stuff? Inside, Dojan's laughing at the prosecutor for being such a clueless loser. If he really wanted to, he could break free from those flimsy cuffs and wreck the whole place. As for the mess that would follow, he could just whisk Grandma and Yun Yong away to a safer spot, maybe out of the country before going full beast mode. Hun Ju-yan, all suited up, strolled into the interrogation room. She must have caught wind of this unjust arrest and came to see what's up. When she asked why he was locked up, Dojan straight up said he wasn't sure himself. Luckily, Jian told him not to pull any dumb moves. She might be the only one who actually knows what this dude can do. It's super frustrating, but throwing punches now would just screw everything up even more. Yuyan didn't wake up today thinking she'd be wrapped up in some legal drama, but she knows for a fact that Dojan didn't do anything wrong. With some innocent dude facing unfair punishment for bogus claims in front of her, she feels it's her mission to fix it. Julian figured the Hero Association would kick off their own investigation soon. They'll totally find out about Dojun's fake hero license and dig into the recent Mappo Rift situation. Dojan asked Julian how his fam was holding up and realized she was getting treated like an assistant. When the dude shot her a look that could melt steel, Jian caved and promised him that his family would be taken care of. As she bounced out of the interrogation room, basically stepping into Dojan's legal corner. The situation is super frustrating, but being aggressive now would just make everything messier. Julian didn't wake up today expecting to dive into the legal stuff, but she knows for sure that Dojan is innocent of whatever he's being accused of. With someone innocent facing unfair punishment for false claims in front of her, she feels she's got to step in and make things right. Julian figured the Hero Association would kick off their own investigation soon. They'll definitely discover Dojun's phony hero license and will be all over the recent Mappo Rift situation. Dojan asked Yuyan how his fam was doing, and then realized she was being treated like some secretary. When the young dude glared at her with that intense look, Jian gave in and promised the dude that his family would be all right. As she walked out of the interrogation room, basically becoming Dojan's legal defense, he declared that this debt would not fade away. She wouldn't show it, but Juyin was kind of feeling good that he's counting on her this time. She swore she'd handle this little hiccup quick, and she was dead serious about it. Who knew Yan's approach wasn't just straight-up legal defense to prove Dojan's innocence. Instead, she totally exposed Prosecutor Park Cholyong's shady activities and got him fired. Once that loser was out of the way, the investigation went on without any hiccups, and Seo Dojan was cleared of all charges. But when it came to the loan shark operation and all that other crazy stuff, he still had to face some consequences. Not a shocker, the investigation revealed he was rocking an unauthorized hero license. Thanks to Hunian being an absolute champ in his defense, he basically dodged a bullet and only got probation. While they were cruising back to Doyan's place, they heard breaking news about some wild monster tearing things up in England on the radio. The monster was described as a mega mantis standing about 1.5 meters tall with these creepy compound eyes and crazy jumping skills. From the description, Dojan peeped the creature as a Macasian. Hun nearly wrecked the car when he heard Dojan say that name. Info about new monsters is super top secret with the association. She only knows what a Macasian is because of his status as an S-rank hero. You gotta know monsters don't just get goofy names from some random dude. They drop magic stones when they kick the bucket, which not only hold condensed energy, but also leak unique info. Analyzing that data can teach you a ton about a monster like its real name. Nowadays, they use science and tech to break it down. But in the wrecked world, they rolled with magic. So yeah, Dojan is mad familiar with the monsters popping up in both worlds. He knows their names and everything about them. He casually dropped that Macasians can be easily taken down with fluid from the red flower ant. That stuff is harmless to us, but hits Macasians like a super strong paralyzing toxin. Spray those bugs and they'll chill out. Hunian got serious for a sec. His every move and word, no matter how hard she tried to dig for his real identity, Dojan kept it under wraps. His mind was off in La La Land, cooking up a plan to stop future drama from raining down on him. The only rational idea he could come up with was to off that __ Hong Heeju. Speaking of that hot mess, Director Hong was losing her chill, nervously biting her nails, feeling the heat while trying to come up with new strategies to handle her husband's annoying son. With someone like Hyun Hwan in the mix, she felt even more stressed over the kid. Her assistant wasn't much help either. After burning through their resources, they still couldn't figure out what kind of connection the S-rank hero had with Dojan. If they mess this up and tick off someone of that level, all the cash the company has won't save them. More than that, Hong Heeju was stressed about the report that Seo Dojan registered as a regular citizen and not a hero in their testing machines. Based on everything they've gathered about the kid, it's pretty obvious he's got something dangerous brewing. Maybe he's got some sneaky ability to trick the hero detector or something. Hong Heeju is bleeding money from this whole scheme, and all her she finally took the plunge and called up the S-rank troublemaker, Kang Yong-pyo, offering 20 billion, no 30 billion to wrap up this Dojan situation for good. As soon as he got the call, the rascal demanded double the cash to take care of this petty issue. Even his crew thought it was a bit much to ask for 60 billion for a simple job. He might be a total lowlife. But Kang Yong-pyo is also a crafty dude. He sensed Hong Heeju was out of options. There were no alternative moves left. Plus, her company rakes in so much dough that 60 billion would barely make a dent. On top of that, Hunu Yan is now a part of the equation, since Kang Yong-pyo's risking it by going up against another S-rank. Doubling the original offer starts to make sense. The underling agreed that Hunu Yan is indeed a major threat. Hearing his worker praise another S-ranker rubbed Kang Yong-pyo the wrong way. He flipped out on the underling for doubting his dueling skills against a guy like Juin. He boasted he could take out that __ in about 20 minutes. Of course, the underling had to smooth things over, fearing for his life. With a creepy grin, Yong-pyo switched topics to his dealings with the Hero Association. He's also working out a contract before jetting off to the United Kingdom as part of South Korea's squad to tackle the bug crisis. Sadly, for Yong-pyo, the association is tightening their budget. Plus, those Y bastards already announced the selection process for heroes being sent out. They're practically forcing S rankers to join in. Young Pio may be a punk, but he views the association as an even sketchier crew. The mission kicks off in 3 days. South Korea is sending its best alongside the Japanese heroes. At least, Young Pio can meet up with this dude named Takashi. Right now, the weakness of Macassians hasn't been figured out yet. Being the one to uncover that vital intel would skyrocket anyone's rep to the stars in the eyes of the crowd. Speaking of Macassians, those critters are advancing towards Cambridge in the UK. British heroes are fighting like crazy to hold off the relentless invasion of those giant bugs. They've assembled a solid squad of heroes. Since it's the UK, they've got a ton of blades in play. The brave frontliners are really struggling to handle a single giant Macassian scaring the daylights out of everyone. Yongo's about to link up with some dude named Takashi. Right now, Macassian's weak spot is still a mystery. Figuring that out would make anyone a star in the public eye. Speaking of Macassians, those pesky bugs are making their way to Cambridge in the UK. The British heroes are battling hard to fend off the relentless invasion of those giant creeps. They've assembled a pretty solid team. Since it's the UK and all, they're rocking a lot of blades. The brave frontline fighters are having a tough time dealing with a solo giant Macassian wreaking havoc. This mantis is like super fast and sharp enough to take down slow heroes in one shot, no cap. The British heroes got their act together and fired back with a coordinated attack. The squad of heroes had a solid lineup, and trust me, they were far from basic. Some of them were using magic to smash right through that tough exoskeleton. The others followed up with some slick melee moves, letting the bug blood spill onto the streets. With awesome teamwork and power, they actually took down their first catch. Just to make sure this dude wasn't hiding a phase 2 or whatever, they lopped its head off. The British heroes finally snagged a win, but just one monster drained all their energy to handle. To totally wreck their vibe, a few more Macassians popped up to mess with the tired heroes. That night, the best heroes the UK had went down in a brutal wipeout. They did everything they could to stop the inevitable. With zero info, they were totally lost against these unknown foes. Those annoying Macassians are making their way south. The brave defense of Cambridge just crumbled. There's like 60 kilometers between the bugs and London now. Right when the Macassians were about to wipe London off the map, something shiny rained down from the sky. When it hit the bugs, they suddenly froze up and felt straight up burning pain. After a hot second of trying to resist, the Macassians dropped like flies. That paralytic stuff messed them up, making all their creepy weapons totally useless against this biological warfare. Up in the sky, the source of the rain came into view. A chopper was tracking the Mantis army from a safe distance. Inside were heroes from South Korea and Japan ready to back it up. Every single one of them was shocked that such a simple plan from Hun Juyan actually worked. The red flower ant sap was doing wonders. The Macassians just couldn't handle it. They were practically reduced to useless shells. Standing next to Juan was Kang Yong-po. In his eyes, there's no way this woman just guessed and hit the jackpot, waking everyone from their daze. Hun Yan took command and told everyone to skydive and finish the job. With newfound respect for Korea's top S-rank hero, the cavalry swan dove towards British land to stop a disaster. A few days after that joint operation, the whole world found out what went down in the UK and who the real MVP was. Back in Korea, fans and the media packed the airport all hyped to catch a glimpse of the country's pride. Reporters were scrambling to get the exclusive on Hun the best. Hunter during the UK adventure. She was the genius who figured out the Macassians' weakness and led the operation to success. She basically saved a whole nation from despair. They say that before she peaced out, she was knighted by the royal fam for her bravery. When Hunian finally stepped inside the airport, camera flashes went off and cheers erupted from the crowd. Like a legit celebrity, she was totally used to the spotlight. Right behind her was Kang Yong-pyo trying to play it cool with that wild haircut he was sporting. Even though Juin is a public figure, today's welcome was still a bit much. As for Kang Yong-po, he got credit for taking out most of the Macassians on the mission. Just keep in mind, he basically took out paralyzed and defenseless bugs. Their entire crew of heroes was like 200 strong. The epic performance of the Korean heroes was the reason the UK still exists. On the news, they spilled details about the Macassian hunt and the red flower ant sap weakness. While strolling around the city, our guy Seo Dojan caught the news and paused for a sec. He was stoked that Jian used his intel. But when he saw Kang Yong-po on the Jumbotron, his mood took a dive. That cocky bastard on the screen is one more loose end he needs to handle soon. Inside a fancy restaurant, Seo Dojan was sipping coffee with the current star of the moment. Hun was dishing out tons of gifts for little Yun Yong grandma, and even our guy. She told him not to peek at the stuff yet. Better to open everything at home, she said. Ignoring her advice, Dojan found some fresh-looking clothes in his gift pile. Juyeon just wanted to show gratitude for that dope tip. Thanks to Dojan's quick intel, she became the hottest hero worldwide. Compared to what she gained, some nice threads are almost so. She promised to hook Dojan up with a car or whatever he wanted. Bro's got a sugar mama now. She knows he won't spill where he got the Maccasian weakness info, but she still asked. And surprise, surprise, he was impossible to crack. Changing the topic, Jian asked about his future plans. He's not the preachy type about world peace or anything lofty, but if he aims for Hong Hee-ju and Kang Yong-po, things are gonna get messy. To Jian's surprise, Dojun's only immediate plan was to buy a new house. The safe house his fam is staying at right now is just a rental. While the current star hero and the former sword god were reconnecting, the other hero who stood out in the UK mission was living it up. Kang Yong-po was enjoying his welcome pool party with girls everywhere he looked. Surrounded by the ladies, he couldn't stop thinking about one specific girl, Hun. He knows she wasn't as strong before. Kang Yong-po was living it up at his welcome pool party, surrounded by beauties everywhere. But his mind keeps drifting to one girl, Hun. He knows she wasn't as tough back in the day. She's totally different now. He thinks it's weird that she's low-key, hiding how she figured out those bug weaknesses. On the flight back to Korea, young Pio was trying to get under her skin. He was fishing for some dirt on Seo Dojan. He brought up how Juyeon swooped in like a total hero when Dojun got tangled up with a shady prosecutor. She was right there when Kang Chiolu got wrecked. Hwan knew he was trying to get a rise out of her, so he was like, "Bro Chi-woo, the idiot, kicked off that fight." Before that scrap, he tried to take out Dojan and totally flopped. Kang Yong-po's had this creepy grin on and agreed with him. He said the fool got blinded by some petty cash. Still, Chi-woo is his fam, so he can always use that to justify getting back at Seo Dojan. For like a hot second, Huiyan almost showed some feels while the sly dude was eyeballing her. She quickly backed off and insisted she couldn't step in if something went down. Kang Yongo was super puzzled. He thought she was tight with that Dojan guy and ignored him for the whole flight. Jian put her sleep mask back on and zoned back out. But even after that chat, Yonggyo couldn't shake the vibe that she was holding back. Kang Yong-pio's paranoid self is still keeping his guard up about Seo Dojun. Back in England, the scene of that breakout at Long Sutton was just ugly shrubbery. The damage from the monster wave was still hella visible. The British Hero Association sent in whatever hero squad they had left to snag those magic stones before the second wave hits. Some of the guards hanging outside were saying how they could have totally aced it if they just knew that Maccasians could be taken down with some red flower ant goo. If their squad could block the wave early, they could have scooped up massive amounts of magic stones. Like once a rift blows with a monster wave, it's never coming back as a gate. For the second wave, it's pretty likely they'd have a whole new kind of monster spilling out. There are tons of records about entire countries getting wiped out in the second wave. The unknown factor is the real kicker. Suddenly, the rift pulsed. The raid team just went in not long ago to grab some stones. It's only been 5 hours. No way it's time to bounce yet. But still, the D-rank guards were on high alert since desperate civilians trying to snatch loose stones are a common sight near rifts. Instead of the usual people pulling out the entire thing, looked like it was about to blow apart. Instead of the mining team, something or someone else popped out of the rift. This guy's face was all scarred, and his armor looked straight out of a fantasy flick. This dude is definitely not a hero. His getup and scars looked unreal. Before the poor guards could hit up HQ, they lost control of their bodies and started floating. The guy took a single step, and it felt like he teleported, lifting the guards like they were nothing. British Guard number 1 tried to throw down with the UK's signature weapon, 3 knives. The flying blades hit their mark, but a bunch of green circles made them vanish like magic. With a raspy voice, the dude complained that these guards were way too weak. He clenched his fist, and those green lights started slicing and dicing the guards, leaving them with no limbs. Imagine turning into a limbless mannequin on the job. A dark mist flowed from the dude's body. Using that dark mist, he controlled space and snagged one of the guard's smartphones. He checked the date, and figured it's been 10 years since he last stepped foot on Earth. And yet, his mission hasn't even hit 20%. After all this work opening dimensional rifts, is it finally time to face the fact that he might be failing? Nah, he just needs to boost the mana to get back on track. But first, this planet needs a good cleaning. It's about time to weed out the weaklings. Back in South Korea, specifically in the Poo region, a young dude is doing his usual farming thing, completely clueless about the chaos on the other side of the world. With just a backpack, Seo Dojan was wandering around the restricted zone. Suddenly, his senses went off when he felt weird vibrations on the ground, just as he thought a horde of nasty worm monsters popped up ready to feast. Their bodies were loaded with metallic spikes, and their mouths were full of sharp teeth. Dojan stood there totally chill and unbothered by the whole crazy scene. Instead of looking up at the monsters, he focused on the holes those worms made. He took a quick glance and figured there were about 26 worms underground within a 100-meter radius. With a smirk, he gathered mana in his hand, ready to test the bugs. He wondered how many worms could survive his first attack. He sent a blast of concentrated mana down the hole, and it went eerily quiet. After a few seconds of just waiting, the explosions finally went off in every other wormhole around. Along with debris and flames, every worm down there was forced to scramble up to avoid getting cooked alive. Dojun is all about working smarter, not harder. With this move, he doesn't have to mess up his drip. He gathered mana in his hand, eager to test the bugs. He wondered how many worms could survive his initial attack. He sent the concentrated mana blast barreling down to the hole, and an eerie silence followed. After a few seconds of idle waiting, the much-awaited explosions finally spread towards every other hole in the area, along with debris and sweltering flames. Every worm wriggling downstairs was forced upwards to escape being cooked alive. Dojun is a proponent of working smarter instead of harder. With this technique, he doesn't have to get dirt in his drip. While he was busy farming free stones from those nasty worms, a super important meeting was going down in the city. Minhoni, the deputy director of the Korea Hero Association, and his boss, Na Tai-wong, were talking about this dude who's been real hard to handle. Yep, they were totally talking about Seo Dojan. According to the reports, this guy's strength couldn't even be measured with a normal hero meter. Other big shots in the association, like Vice President Park Seong-gol, thought it was totally wild and sketchy to let a guy like that walk around free in the country. They want Seo Dojun to answer to them. According to the deputy's intel, all the craziness about Seo Dojan started with Kang Chao-woo's evil scheme. After waking up from that gate raid where he was supposed to bite the dust, Dojan changed big time. He later got his revenge and took care of the new rift in Mapo all by himself. Sure, he did some crazy stuff from time to time, but he always had a legit reason. Bottom line, Seo Dojan's power is straight up massive. Nate Wong mused about how a wild horse is the hardest to wrangle. But hey, they've got a solid horse in their stable, and that's what really counts. What kicked off this whole chat was Dojan's request for an official hero license. He got a special pass to skip the usual procedures since he had a backer. And that backer is none other than the S-rank superstar of the country, Manhwa. When they heard he was connected to the Golden Girl, the association peeps were totally shook. They knew they couldn't trash talk Wan, especially with how hot her name is right now, so Seo Jun's request for a hero license got the green light super fast. He got slotted in as the 8th S-rank hero in South Korea, and dude had never even set foot in the association. Thanks to his new status, he can finally hunt in any rift zone he wants, and that's pretty sweet. The way he wrecked the Poo Rift Zone, turning those dangerous worms into crispy critters, got the director's attention fast. That scary geyser was actually pretty amused that the country's newest S-ranker was already living up to the hype. It's not every day you hear about a hero rolling into a secondary rift solo without any guild buddies or allies. That's straight up madness to normal folks. The VP, who was totally against Seo Dojun at first, is now all for revealing the young dude's identity to the public so they can start promoting a new rising star. Luckily, the deputy shut down that dumb and greedy idea. Minhoni said they should ask the guy how he feels before throwing him into the spotlight as a public figure. The VP argued that since we're in a time of chaos, giving the people another symbol of hope as a new S-rank hero would lift the weight off everyone's shoulders. Mr. VP tried hard to push this idea to director Na Tai-wong, but the geyser chose to be smart about it. Before the association makes any moves, he wants to meet the kid face to face. Speaking of which, Seo Dojan is still going strong in his worm-killing spree. If he wasn't using mana explosions, he was going full-on brute force. While he sliced through one poor worm, the rest of the wriggly creeps were looming over him. They might be a pain for normal heroes, but their moves were practically flashing in Dojan's mind. With his hand pumped up by the blazing power of his mana, he unleashed a wild sweep that fried and decapitated a dozen worm monsters in one go. He landed back on the ground and a mountain of dead worm bodies dropped around his feet. Dojan stood above that pile of corpses at Aurora Farm like a boss. His hands were still sizzling from the afterburn of his move. He sighed and waved away the last flickers. As expected, the mana drain from continuously hunting and wrecking high-level monsters is no joke. To fix that, Seo Dojan decided it was finally time to snag a proper weapon. No surprise here, the best place to gear up was the Gasan Hero Complex. Seo Dojan picked an unassuming store and walked in. Inside, a beat-up dude was manning the counter, totally zoned out on his phone. The welcome bell rang, and he didn't even look up as he asked if the customer had a reservation. Seo Dojan brushed off the dude's question and tossed his backpack on the counter, demanding a weapon crafted from the stuff inside. Annoyed, the dude declared that they don't service peeps without a reservation. Dojan was already turned down by every other shop on the street, claiming they were all booked solid. Fed up, the bum replied that they don't serve folks without a reservation. Dojan had already struck out at every other shop on the strip, everyone claiming they were all booked up. This was the only shop that picked up his call. Still, the dude outright refused to help him, just too irritated to take his eyes off his phone. With his patience wearing thin, Dojan grabbed the dude by the collar, ignoring his threats and swearing he asked the little punk about who ran the shop. With his patience running low, Dojan yanked the bum by the collar. Ignoring the dude's threats and insults, he fired off a question about who runs the shop. The bum puffed up with pride, saying his dad's the owner. And the dude shrugged and proudly said his dad owns the place. If that's the case, he better call daddy real quick. Seo Dojan came here on a solid recommendation. The dude got let go. He scoffed but cowardly backed off to another room and called his pops. An old guy rocking a modified welding mask came out from the back to see what the fuss was about. His name is Cho Chalan, master craftsman of hero armaments. Dojan told him he came here thanks to Hunu Yan's recommendation. Of course, both dad and son knew that name. Seriously, everyone round here knows that legend. Old man Choi was just shook that an S-rank celeb even knew about his skills. Seo Dojan ain't got time for lame small talk, so he just whipped out his gear from his bag. The old master checked out the mats and realized they were from a massive black viper's fang. Man, it's been ages since he laid eyes on one. But hey, Seo Dojan wants a legit sword made from that material. He wants his blade to be as long as it gets. Don't we all, right? The master craftsman was totally against that idea. Stretching out non-metal stuff too much could totally mess with its strength. He was all about making 2 medium swords instead. When Dojan heard that weak compromise, he shot back, asking if the old man was admitting he couldn't craft what the customer wanted. Still, he just wants to mash them into one killer sword. Length is all that matters, yo. Okay, and maybe how you handle it too. Besides the crazy length, he wants the mana absorption on point. Listening to these wild and kind of unreasonable demands, the old dude couldn't just hang back anymore. He's got mad respect for his dad, who could whip up weapons with at least a grade 3 mana absorption rate. Seo Dojan picked up one of the swords chillin' at the front of the shop. He gave that blade a quick look and rated it as grade 5. Then he just straight up grabbed the sharp end with his bare hands. Father and son were just standing there, totally stunned, as this unusual customer pulled off some magic. The tighter he gripped, the blade shattered like it was nothing. That grade 5 beauty the shop was hype about turned into powder and scraps. The old dude felt pretty lucky he hadn't messed with this mysterious guy. The old man watched in shock as his pride and joy broke apart. Seo Dojan warned Cho Chuan that if he was going to craft some garbage with the materials he brought, he better bail now. If he can turn a grade 5 weapon into dust, just imagine what he could do to your face. After finally locking down a shop that could handle his demands, Seo Dojan took off for another dungeon. Today, he's hunting a green-skinned, one-eyed freak. With his crazy senses, the Cyclops shrieked when it sensed something shady nearby. While other hunters flex their styles with fancy gear, Seo Dojan's just out here solo hunting in his jeans and hoodie. Since he still doesn't have a proper weapon, he'll just use his hands for now. The Cyclops wasn't about to let him get an easy hit. It tried to stomp him out right away. When the first attack missed, the one-eyed jerk freaked out. Dojun jumped up to close the size gap. His sword hand moved faster than lightning, slicing off a hunk of juicy Cyclops shoulder meat. The pain made the beast screech in a way that was super annoying. Desperate for revenge, it grabbed a whole tree and waved it around like a maniac trying to crush the hooded dude. Unfortunately for the Cyclops, those wild swings ain't gonna land on this guy. Dojun braced for impact and got 2 nasty wounds on his shoulders. It was a total bloodbath. Normally, this would be a game over if he was facing any other monsters. But Cyclops are on a whole another level. They've got such insane healing powers that they can laugh off fatal wounds. Dojun had already prepped for that earlier on. If the enemy can heal like crazy, you just gotta keep hitting hard. Without giving the Cyclops a chance to hit back right after it regenerates, Dojun sliced and diced through its tough flesh and nasty guts. To finish it off, he beheaded the giant and stuck the superhero landing. It was a clean but bloody win over that green-skinned beefcake. Seo Dojan let out a sigh, feeling a bit wiped. Keeping a mana sword going for too long is still way too demanding, and he grabbed his bag and pulled out a pitcher. Dojun dipped that thing into one of the Cyclops' gnarly wounds like he was just getting juice. This was the whole point of his mission, to snag some primo Cyclops blood. He rolled back to the hero district by sundown. As usual, the old dude was at the counter, so he just plopped his blood pitcher down without saying a word. He told the brat to hand the pitcher over to Daddy. With this, those 2 black viper fangs could be easily fused together. After that quick rundown, he didn't feel like explaining more and just dipped out of the shop. All the essential materials for his weapon were in hand, but if he wanted that high mana absorption, he still needed one more thing. There's only one spot on Earth to find that. While he was scheming and plotting how to score that secret ingredient, his fellow S-ranker was getting hit up with a super important call. Hun Juyan was chilling on vacation when she answered and heard a country name, Brazil. The sun was shining and the water was lit, but Hun couldn't fully chill out 'cause of that call. After their last mission in Europe, the Korean Association decided to send its heroes to Brazil. That meant the Brazilian government and their association had thrown in the towel on handling the rift zones themselves. As far as Jong and Ju knew, Brazilian monsters were especially savage, but the magic stone drops were insane. With mad cash up for grabs, her Cleome guild had to roll out too. As far as Jong and Ju knew, Brazilian monsters were especially savage, but the magic stone drops were insane. With mad cash up for grabs, her Cleome guild had to roll out too. The Korean Association decided to send its heroes to Brazil. Looks like the Brazilian government and association have thrown in the towel on shutting down those rift zones themselves. From what Jong and Ju know, Brazilian monsters are crazy violent, but the magic stone drops are off the charts. With big bucks on the line, her Cleome guild is totally down to roll too. From what Jong and Ju know, Brazilian monsters are crazy violent, but the magic stone drops are off the charts. With big bucks on the line, her Cleome guild is totally down to roll too. She totally pushed Julian to take the mission and roll with that dude from a few days back. Inju figured that the country's 8th rank was probably that guy they teamed up with in the dungeon. You know, the one everybody's whispering about being Hun's homeboy. Inju is all about supporting this cute couple. She thought it was hella romantic that 2 super strong peeps were out taking down a fierce Carcelian, just the 2 of them. After a bunch of coaxing, Inu finally got Julian to sign off on the Brazilian mission. But for real, she has no clue if that dude is even gonna swing by the little shop in the Gasan Hero Complex again. Old man Choi was staring at his own masterpiece like wow. He never thought non-metal stuff could be melted and fused with Cyclops juice. If it weren't for this kid, he would have never figured out such a crazy technique. Now he can make the sword as long as Dojan wants. They could go all the way up to around 180 centimeters. Seo Dojan is asking for a 2-handed blade with a grip that can switch to one-handed, use something that weighs about 5 kilos. Old man Choi was shook to see the rude brat from yesterday suddenly being so polite. Turns out he actually knows some manners. Maybe his weapon is that important to him. Old man Choi warned that 5 kilos is kinda heavy to swing one-handed, like he can't just be swinging it once or twice. Dojan knows what he wants and he's not changing his mind. Old man Choi figured it'd take at least a month to craft, and the mana absorption rate should be grade 7. He wasn't satisfied with a basic grade 7 rate. There's no way that level could handle his full power. As expected, he really needs that final push from one special ingredient. Dojan headed for the exit and told the old man to just shape it for now. The mana absorption upgrade can chill until he gets the rest of the materials. As a pro craftsman old man, Choi had a hunch about the material the kid was talking about. He couldn't help but shiver a bit. A few days later, Seo Dojan hit the city to meet a super important lady. Hunu Yan kept her word and got him a shiny new ride. Dojan was stoked about the gift. She was like, "This is nothing compared to how much you've helped me out. It's just a $1 billion whip, no biggie." When he thanked her with a grin, Jian went back to being a shy girl for a sec. While he was checking out every detail of his, John asked what went down with him at the Hero Association. After meeting with the big bosses, those crusty old geezers tried to make his info public, but Dojan was like, "Nah, you're gonna have to fork over big bucks for that." He got that President Na Wang is all about the greater good, but politics just makes things. Dojan jumped into his new ride. Hunu Yan slid into the passenger seat. While buckling her seatbelt, she started talking about the association getting ready for the Brazil operation. When she said Brazil, Dojan tuned everything else out. He leaned in closer and genuinely asked if she was going. Stunned, she barely managed to squeak out that she would be. If that's the case, he invited Juan to tag along. The S-rank Brazilian Riz is no joke. It made the nation's hero's heart skip a beat, and her cheeks turned bright red. Meanwhile, another girl was blushing hard because of Seo Dojan. The loaded Hong Hee-ju was in the middle of getting played by Kang Yong-pyo for even more money. He was pushing director Hong not to be stingy at a time like this. He's already got $3 billion in advance, but he's still asking for more. Dude hasn't even started on his so-called job to finally take out Seo Dojan, running out of patience. Hong Hee-ju seriously thought about just hiring someone else to take care of her dirty work. She figured there are tons of lowlifes out there who would do the job for some serious cash. No questions asked. Kang Yong-pyo just laughed at her outdated info, so he tossed in a free tip. He just found out that Seo Jun has leveled up to being the nation's latest S-ranker. They are practically on the same level. Director Hong refused to believe that the weak kid she tossed out of the family had morphed into some kind of superhuman. Yong spent a lot of his own cash to lock down this info. If Hong Hee-ju didn't want to believe it, she could just wait until Seo Dojan scales this tower and takes out the dude himself. Feeling desperate and scared of what might happen, Director Hong stopped Yong-po from bailing. She's out of her depth and doesn't want to get wrecked. This crazy lady promised to pay whatever it took just to wipe Seo Dojan off the map. Kang Yong-po grinned and said he changed his mind. Instead of wanting more cash, he'd rather have a solid business relationship with your conglomerate moving forward. At this moment, Hong Hee-ju would say yes to any kind of payment. Just then, she got a super important text. Looks like the heavens are smiling down on the cursed lady. The perfect chance to take out Seo Dojan just popped up. A few days later, the whole country was hyped about another international mission for the nation's heroes. All the S-rankers that signed up were now on a bomb private jet. On social media, people couldn't wait to see 5 S-ranks save a country on the verge of destruction. Korean users were filled with pride. One of the S-rankers was Jang Soo-nung-ho, who single-handedly brought the P group to the top. He only jumps on missions if there's a ton of cash to be made. Then there's Park Hale. His guild recently got wiped out completely. On social media, everyone's hyped to watch 5 S-ranks saving a country that's about to go down in flames. Korean users are bursting with pride. One of the S-rankers, Jang Soo-nung-ho, single-handedly carried the P group to the top. He only takes missions if there's a fat stack of cash involved. Also, there's Park Hale. His guild just fell apart. Yo, the cash for this mission is super crucial. But like Hun's totally the nation's current fave. She just saved Britain, and now she's off to Brazil without even a second to chill. You know, Kang Yong-pyo's hyped about that tax break for every magic stone snagged on the mission. Just landing a single mid-high stone could flip a regular peep's life upside down. While the other S-rank heroes got all the clout and chatter online, one dude had more questions swirling than gossip. Seo Dojan was just a young rookie busting onto the international scene. Nothing too wild. With these 5 legends on the top tier, Brazil's about to get lit. After a long and pretty dull flight, they finally touched down in São Paulo, Brazil. The Brazilian Hero Association is gathering to hash out how the whole thing's gonna go down. They're all hyped to welcome the famous Korean squad since they're the quickest responders around. A few S-rankers didn't even bother checking into their hotels and just jumped right into action. Still, some big shots are a bit freaked that the Koreans might uncover secrets they've been trying to keep on the low. No secret's safe forever, man. So they just gotta keep everything on lockdown until the whole collab wraps up. Brazil's national treasure hero, Maurice, got wrecked by some unknown creep. It was a brutal end. He didn't go down by a monster, that's for sure. His black box must have picked up some human killer vibes. No one knows what really went down at the Siam Rift. Right now, the Korean crew's getting the lowdown on the plan, while everyone was hanging on every word. Hun Juyeon was busy texting and looking for Seo Dojan. Turns out he stayed on the plane and hopped on some other flight to a new spot. Dude's heading straight for the Santa Rift. Juyeon couldn't shake off the worry. She just found out this guy's off to the most sketchy rift all by himself. Supposedly, the team has a 2-day local chill period before they hit the rift zones they signed up for. After the briefing, John didn't stick around long and jumped into a taxi. Kang Yong-pyo followed, all curious about where she was headed when they weren't supposed to be moving yet. Just to ditch the annoying guy, she let it slip that she was off to Sam for a bit. Yongo definitely thought that was sus. The Brazilian crew made it super clear about the dangers over there. The rift zone near Sanrem had turned into a total wasteland. Hyunju Yeon and the Cleo Guild teamed up with Seo Dojan to join him on his so-called solo mission. Since they rushed to this deserted place, Juyeon straight up they were bickering like an old married couple. Tired of her non-stop questions, Dojan finally snapped that he's just after the blue croco, which was a letdown of an answer. Not thrilled with how casually he was talking to her, Jian reminded him that she was 3 years older and wanted some respect. While they kept bickering, the Cleome Guild just stood back and watched. Guild leader Jong and Ju had never seen anyone who had the guts to boss Juan around like this. As they went deeper into the rift zone, some Cleome Guild members were getting nervous about pushing ahead without a solid game plan. But with Hunuyan in the crew, they felt a bit safer. No doubt she's a pro, but it looked like the newbie was leading the charge. While others were doubting the dude up front, those who had been around during the dungeon run were all in on the newbie's leadership. Feeling confused and a tad anxious, Juyeon wanted to know if Dojun was planning on shutting the rift down. He shrugged off that big goal and said he just came for the materials and wanted to max out the zone. After a few more minutes of chill trekking, they finally faced the first big obstacle. The Cleo Guild was packed with skilled A-rankers, so they played their parts like champs. With a clear hierarchy and quick calls, they handled surprise threats like pros. Still, those blue crocos were way scarier in person than in the pics. All they could do was defend, and things were getting a bit dicey. With the crew stuck, Seo Dojan finally made his move, whipped out his blade, and told the A-rankers to step aside. While everyone was hyped on him, this dude didn't waste any time and went in for the score. Old Man Choi knew he was after the blue croco's heart, so he lent Dojan a sweet sword for the moment. He locked onto his target and bolted like a cannonball. In one smooth move, he turned the annoying blue crocos into chopped meat. He was so quick and precise, it triggered that classic anime speed effect. Dojan was already meters away from the beasts when they hit the ground. Those who believed in the newbie from the jump felt validated, and those who doubted him were left speechless. That kid is just wildly strong. After that first hiccup, the journey to the rift zone went down pretty smoothly. The sun went down and the crew set up camp. Gathered around the campfire, the Cleo Guild couldn't stop gushing about how Mr. Seo Dojan took out a bunch of blue crocos all by himself in one go. Seriously, he didn't even break a sweat. The public doesn't know yet, but that's how he took down the fierce Carcelian too. One thing's for sure, this dude's no average hero. While others were gossiping, gathered around the campfire, the Cleo Guild couldn't stop bragging about how Mr. Seo Dojan wiped out a crew of blue crocos in one shot without even breaking a sweat. It's not out in the open yet, but that's exactly how he took down that fierce Carcelian too. One thing's for sure, this guy is no average hero. While the gossip mills run wild, Dojan was busy checking out his sketchy-looking steak cooking away. Hun rolled up and asked if he was done sorting the blue croco hearts. Well, those coolers he brought are packed with that stuff now. Juyeon still can't wrap her head around what those hearts are even for. Glancing at his pan, she asked what kind of meat was sizzling in there. Ain't no way that's beef. He casually said he's grilling some blue croco meat. She could totally try it if she wanted. There's tons of food ready for this trip. But nah, dude is cooking his own hunt. ignoring her grossed-out face. Dojan took a hefty bite of his weird meal. He chewed and swallowed like he was at a barbecue joint. Using his knife like a fork, it was kinda gnarly to watch. Even Jong Eun-ju was thrown off. They got so much regular food available, and here their leader is munching on cursed meat. After shaking off her initial cringe, Hyeon got intrigued. She grabbed a piece for herself and just stared at it for a sec. Inju wanted to stop her friend from making a major mistake, but Jeon trusts Dojun's taste. As that blue meat got closer to her mouth, she could only watch in horror. Jeon tentatively bit into the nasty-looking meat. After she swallowed a tiny piece, she was actually surprised by how good it tasted. And just like that, two people in the camp were silently munching on this bizarre meal. Curious Jong and Ju whispered, asking Mr. Seo Dojan about his secret. How did a relatively unknown guy charm someone like Miss Ju? Sure, she's kind of inexperienced and has never had a boyfriend, but she's not the type to just fall for any dude. So what did Dojan do to charm and persuade Korea's national treasure to try his meat? Hearing the word romance made him flash back to his days at the Imperial Academy. That was ages ago before he even turned 20. When it comes to love, there was Miss Massel Grain from the Grain Count fam. Then there was the youngest of the Lazulian family, Luenda Lulian, and of course his last sanctuary in this wrecked world, the brave knight Veronica. He was deep in his trip down memory lane when Inju's whispered shouting pulled him back. As for his secret, he said Jeon is the moth to his flame. Inju had never cringed harder in her life. Just like that, the night rolled on with a super playful vibe. Even Dojan was smiling and having a blast. Meanwhile, back in S. Paulo, Kang Yong-pyo was still living it up in a swanky hotel suite. He was still scratching his head over why Hoon Hwan was so antsy to move when the actual operation date ain't even set yet. According to his sources, she's rolling with Seo Dojan and Jong-eun's guild. He turned to his assistant and asked about any profitable monsters in the Sam area. From what he knows, there should be none that are really worth anything. Everything linked to that jerk Seo Dojan is just way too unpredictable. Yongo's worries vanished when the annoying director Hong called his phone. As usual, she rung him up to ask if the job's done. Hearing how impatient she sounded, Kang Yong-pyo poked if something went down on her end. Well, she was stressing that her dad might have found out about the news of Dojan leveling up to S rank. He's telling the kid to come back home now. Since the chairman of T Group is getting involved, Hong Hee-ju is more jittery than usual. Yong-po finds her misery kinda funny. Still, he finally found a solid partner who'd bring him some huge profits. He was going to make sure she wouldn't be let down. He assured the director that Seoyeon wasn't bouncing back to Korea. Hearing that made Hong Hee-ju feel a bit at ease. Kang Yong-po marked a spot on his map and got ready to contact someone. Seo Dojan slipped off to his own little hideout. His job just got a whole lot easier. When the sun came up, the Santa expedition crew kept pushing forward with Dojan leading the way. Hun held the map as the navigator and warned Dojan about heading into the jungle because of the monsters. Top of the worry list is the lynx. Of course. Dojan knows everything there is to know about the lynx. Instead of avoiding the thick jungle, Seo Dojun marched straight into the most dangerous path available. John knows there's no stopping this dude when he's set on something, but she pushed him to at least throw on some earplugs. Thankfully, she had some stashed away. Earplugs are a must when facing a lynx. Its screams have this super enchanting vibe that can totally mess with your head. Dojan was aware of that, but he straight up refused to take the plugs. Juin didn't give up trying to convince him to wear the earplugs. The intel and warning came from the Brazilian treasure hero after all. Ignoring her calls, Seo Jun casually trekked through the thick bushes of Santa jungle, leaving them no choice. Hunu Yan and the Cleom Guild got pulled into this risky detour. After a whole day of non-stop hiking, they finally reached the monster's lair. Under the bright moon, the lynx stared them down like a predator sizing up its dinner. It looked like a crazy, oversized cat. As soon as the beast revealed itself, Inju shouted at her crew to cover their ears. While everyone was freaking out, Dojan just stared at the cat like a total boss. He's not prey. Two predators were checking each other out. It was a showdown of whose vibes were stronger. As expected, the lynx quickly opened its terrible mouth and let out a bone-chilling scream. Hun Juin and the Cleom Guild members quickly plugged their ears while Seo Han just stood there and soaked in the sound. The lynx quickly opened its terrible mouth and let out a bone-chilling scream. Hun Juyan and the Cleome Guild members quickly plugged their ears while Seo Dojan just stood there and soaked in the sound. Yuyan thought it was kinda weird how chill Dojan was. Like, why wasn't he doing the bare minimum to fend off the lynx? Dojan dropped his hand and whipped up a fireball. With killer accuracy, he sent that fireball flying at the lynx, which was chilling under the moonlight. That definitely shut it up real quick. The beast pieced out, realizing Dojan meant business. Dojan wasted no time drawing his sword and sprinting after it. Zhong-U Jian and the crew picked up the pace, but honestly, they were super confused about what was going down. They dashed through the thick woods, but Dojan's steps ground to a halt. That lynx they first saw was just bait to catch some unsuspecting peeps. That little furball got smacked by Dojan's attack at the entrance, so it's clearly furious now. Out of nowhere, its eyes lit up like a bonfire. It scanned the group and zeroed in on one target. Jun was the chosen one. When her eyes locked onto the lynx's glare, she got really dazed for a sec. Lucky for her, Dojan jumped in to cover her eyes. He kept it cool and explained that the lynx's scream isn't what you should freak out about. Nah, it's those magical eyes that can mess with your head. The fix is simple. Everyone just needs to shut their peepers for a minute and let the MC take care of business. Dojan strutted forward with his sword ready. Time to test how far he could push himself. With a swift slice, he unleashed a blazing arc full of power. It was a move that could level up a swordsman's game, the first form of the Vandan sword skills, a straight-up miracle from one little point. He pointed the tip forward and gathered a way tighter version of his energy blasts. The Lynx pack had never seen anything like this, and they were totally lost. So our dude basically scored a free hit with his ultimate talent. The A-rankers from the Cleome Guild were just standing there, jaws on the floor, and kinda scared. Looking like a total beast, Seo Dojan unleashed all that power, and it lit everything up in flames. The poor little critters scuttling in the trees realized they were way too late. The pack took a massive hit from that miracle. They got absolutely wrecked. The shock from it nearly knocked the girls off their feet, and not in a cute way. When the light from the spell faded, what was left was an eerie sight. A whole chunk of the forest was erased. The ground was burned black, and Dojan, he didn't even look like he broke a sweat. The poor little creatures that thought they could mess with him were instantly roasted. They hyped these monsters up so much, and they didn't even get to show their moves. If Jian had to sum up Seo Dojan in one word, it'd be unreal. Surprisingly, one lynx survived the blast that wiped out its entire fam. Dojan isn't the type to leave things open-ended, so he casually walked up to finish the job. The surviving lynx tried desperately to freeze him in place with its special move. Dojan cut its furry little head off like it was nothing. Clean cut marking the end of tonight's one-sided game. The final thing that beast saw was the face of the dude who took it down. Dojan crouched down and cold-heartedly gouged out the dead lynx's eye. Like a true hunter, he wasn't about to waste something so valuable. After burning those beasts and snatching their loot, the group headed back through a safer path, their respect for Seo Dojan even higher. Juyan was staring at him like he was a total snack from the back. Everyone was on the same vibe. This guy leading the charge was definitely on another level, like way past normal human. Some even had the audacity to put him above the legendary hero Shah Alan's. Others thought he was on the same tier as Kane Lester, the current champ of heroes. The trip back to the regular trail wasn't without bumps, and some creepy humanoid monsters rolled up to bug them. These creatures really don't get the social cues. The undead, just a bunch of mindless corpses looking to chow down. Their charge might seem scary, but honestly, it was just too basic. Seo Dojan punched one of the ghouls out of the way like it was a joke. Seo Dojan kept his kill streak going after taking a quick breather. This time, he went for another headshot. He didn't even need a weapon or any fancy moves. The undead couldn't handle his blows and were sent packing back to the underworld. Once he got into his groove, it was game over. The sound of heads popping off rang out as the ghouls fell after one another. With his bare hands, Seo Dojan took each one out effortlessly. This time, the Cleome Guild members realized they were just there for the show and stood back to enjoy the highlights. A few moments later, after grabbing any loot they could from the ghouls, the group kept moving. While walking, Jian couldn't hold back her curiosity anymore, so she asked Dojun about his sword skills, specifically the move that made those flashy lights. She's clearly talking about the first form of the Vanian sword skills, a miracle from a single point. He kinda half-heartedly asked if she wanted to learn it, and Jian's face instantly lit up. But in a chill world like this, he saw no reason to teach someone something that overpowered. Juyan sensed he was totally underestimating her. She's not just anyone. But in a chill world like this, he doesn't see any need to drop some OP knowledge on anyone. Juyan could feel this dude totally underestimating her chops. Still an S-rank hero too. On paper, they're like totally equals. But seeing that defiant look in her eyes, Dojan seriously thought about teaching her some Van Dion sword skills. In the end, she realized this brick wall wasn't gonna budge as she sulked like a kid who just got denied the best toy ever. To keep things moving, Inju called the shots to dip from the rift for now. The last leg of the trip back was smooth sailing, and the crew made it to the exit rift. Thanks to Dojan's major support, they cleared the zone without losing anyone or even getting a scratch. Next time, they'll jump back in with the mission to shut that rift down. Who knows, maybe they'll wrap it up even faster. Everyone bounced out of the rift one by one, with Inju being the last to step out. The second she popped out, she caught wind of a heated argument in Japanese. Someone had been lurking outside the rift just to stir up some trouble and bring the drama. The more Inju heard, the clearer it became who the rude voice belonged to. In the chaos, Seo Dojan had randomly thrown his arm around Fine Dude's waist. In front of them stood Ryoma Takashi, a former Yakuza S-rank hero and Toku's guildmaster. He rolled in with his crew. Ryoma claimed he was supposed to have a blast with Jian today, but this random kid had the nerve to block him. He threatened to smash Dojan's face in if he didn't scram. Ryoma loomed over him, but you couldn't tell he was fazed by the threats at all. He even fired back in flawless Japanese. The previous Seojun must have picked up some skills along the way. Ryoma was not having any of that disrespect in his native tongue. Sensing their boss's anger, the Yakuza thugs growled at Dojun to bow down and genuinely apologize. They wouldn't stop yapping about how their master is untouchable. While they could talk trash all day, Seo Dojan didn't give a flying __. To put it bluntly, he straight up told Ryoma to get lost. Watching this unfold, Inju's anxiety was through the roof. Toku is among Japan's top 5 guilds. Ryoma Takashi is a thug known for his violent vibes. Even for Dojan, it might be smarter to steer clear of this mess. Trying to mediate, she thought it was best to jump in and chill things out. Jong and Ju were cool about her approach, but Ryoma just called her a __ who shouldn't butt in. This time, her crew flared up. Their guildmaster was being straight up disrespected. It could have quickly escalated into a full-on guild war, but Inju kept her boys in check. Despite the insults, Jong Eun-ju formally introduced herself as Cleom's guildmaster and said they should settle this without it blowing up. Ryoma just spat on her peaceful idea. He had never heard of that weak Korean guild, so why should he care? Going even further, Ryoma offered Inju a turn on his 2-in-1 beast after he was done with Juyan. He grabbed Juyan hard, but Dojun stepped in and blocked that move. Fed up, Ryoma finally decided to throw down after barking for so long. His fist landed a little tap on Dojun's cheek. He thought that would be enough to knock some nobody out so he could mess around. The dumbass Yakuza slipped that he had some business with Dojan. One could guess this whole scene was one big setup. If that's the case, Dojan was totally down to roll with it. He quickly got back at Ryoma by popping him on the same cheek. His punch was way more effective. It sent the Japanese punk flying back to his crew. The Yakuza goons who were throwing insults didn't expect their boss to be in this mess. Dojan told everyone to back off, since these __ threw the first punch. Whatever goes down next can be claimed as self-defense. The Yakuza thugs pulled out their weapons and got ready to fight back, but the boss called for a one-on-one. Ryoma tossed aside his jacket, showing off his ripped bod, and told his dudes to fall back. Tapping into the power lying dormant inside him, the ex-Yakuza S-ranker showed why he's one of Japan's best. Before the inevitable brawl kicked off, Jian turned to Dojan and gave a simple tip. She didn't bother with any of that talking down stuff. She just asked her man to at least leave the poor Japanese thug half dead. What went down next was pretty much what you'd expect. The Japanese dudes were shocked, but for the expedition crew, it was just another day. Seojun was absolutely stomping on the trash-talking Yakuza punk. Ryoma's head was buried deep as Dojan's kicks hammered him harder with every stomp. Miraculously, Ryoma managed to crawl out of that embarrassing position, backing away while reevaluating his life choices. Who the heck had he messed with? How could this guy be real? This was not what he heard about from the grapevine. Look at those eyes. Seo Dojan is not the dude you want to underscore with. Staring into them felt like signing your death warrant. Every bit of Ryoma's being screamed at him to run or he was a goner for sure. It didn't matter if it was shameful to bail after starting a fight. He just wanted to bolt and never see Dojan again. Sadly, he had to see this through to the end. The young man darted like the wind and showed up in his escape route. Looking down at the crushed gangster, Dojan asked if someone had orchestrated this ridiculous fight. He already had a hunch on who was behind these dirty tricks. There was no denying it. Dojan grabbed Ryoma by his greasy hair, and the tough Yakuza begged for mercy from talking underscore. And the gangster was straight up begging for his life, and his tone took a major dive. Dojun was totally disgusted by his weak attitude and gave that dude a flurry of slaps in just a few seconds. Halfway through the slapfest, he closed his fist like he meant business. Seo Dojan went hard, literally smashing that gangster's ugly mug like it owed him money. He pounded that jerk into a bloody mess. The crowd was frozen in shock. Like, is this really happening? It ain't every day you witness an S-ranker getting punked like some background character in high school. After way too many punches, he finally let go of Ryoma's limp body. Inju thought their guy would definitely take the win, but dang, this was way more one-sided and graphic than she expected. After a quick breather, Dojan jumped back in, giving that punk some more trauma. He carefully put his heels on the back of Ryoma's head. With everyone watching, he slowly ramped up the pressure on his foot, silently hinting he might just crack that guy's skull open. At this rate, one of Japan's prized S-rankers could seriously bite the dust here. Inju pushed John to pipe up. She snapped out of her daze, begging Dojan to chill before they crossed a line they couldn't uncross. Dojan just calmly replied that he'd take the heat for what he was about to do. John was over it and dragged that guy out of unnecessary drama. He shouldn't even think about doing something that he'd have to own up to in the first place. Still, Dojan had dealt with his fair share of losers like Ryoma. He felt that it's better to just eliminate those types instead of leaving potential chaos. But hey, this is the modern world. Inju and Juyin didn't want him to get his hands dirty with trash like this. To sway Dojan that the Yakuza had learned their lesson, Inju pushed the goons to throw in the towel and stay out of trouble unless they wanted to end up like their boss. Those punks hit the ground fast, swearing they wouldn't mess with Dojan anymore. But man, Dojan isn't easily impressed. Kneeling doesn't cut it for him. He wants his enemies begging for mercy. Since he knew this kid could probably take out 3 of them with one punch, the goons played along pretty convincingly. Dojan even mentioned that Yakuza usually chop off their fingers when they screw up. Scared of losing their pinkies, the goons smashed their heads down on the ground even harder while begging for forgiveness. So, Dojan gave them a way out. All they had to say was, "I'm trash and I'm sorry," to get a warning. Through clenched teeth, the gangsters swallowed their pride just to survive. They recited the magic words word for word. The Clio Guild crew honestly felt a sense of justice seeing how Dojan dealt with the threat. Even the battered S-ranker had to spit out the humiliating phrase. After settling the drama, they wrapped stuff up and headed back to the Coalition's HQ. The next day, in sunny S. Paulo, Brazil, John and Inju found themselves at the Brazil Hero Association's office to report what went down. Reading the recap was a bit hard to swallow. The report explained Takashi got wrecked to the point of being crippled by just one dude. Lots of people saw it, but it still felt unreal. Brazil's Hero Association was really hoping Korea and Japan would team up to tackle the annoying Sam Rift. If the report's legit, the Brazilian Association won't have to chip in. They'll just pass the case over to the Hero Associations in Japan and Korea for them to handle internally. With that sorted, they got to the part about the trip near Sam. For now, everything seemed chill. The Brazilian Hero Association's rep kept seeing Seo Dojan's name pop up in the reports, so he asked to see the guy. But that's a no-go right now, since Dojan was busy supposedly tying up loose ends. Inside a super lonely hospital room, a poor patient totally covered in gauze and hardly recognizable with his wrecked face opened his eyes to a nightmare. Dojan had shown up to pay his victim a proper visit, flowers in hand. Before Ryoma could freak out, the executioner told him to chill and said he was there for a legit hospital visit. He then dug into the flower bouquet and pulled out the eye of a lynx he had stashed. Dojan forced Ryoma. With the gangster fully under the lynx's creepy spell, it was about time to squeeze out some info on the dude who kicked off all this nonsense. Dojan stuck around in that hospital room grilling his victim for quite a while. By the time he was done, the notorious Ryoma Takashi was reduced to a total bumbling idiot with a fried brain. He kept calling himself lowly trash who caused nothing but trouble for the Korean guilds. His mind was jelly, and that loose end was finally tied up. When Dojan bounced out of the room, Ryoma had been completely lobotomized. He just kept chanting that the Yakuza are trash. Knowing how to deal with lingering enemies while aura farming is a major hallmark of a legendary main character. Rumors about the clash between Korean and Japanese heroes spread like wildfire across every big news outlet. Some articles were all about the beating, some showed the aftermath, and most publications were itching to snag a statement from the rising star. Korea Hero Association's president, Na Tae-yong, was in tune with the crowd. He knew his new guy was taking the news by storm. The reaction was lit. Himself just some lowly loser who caused chaos for the Korean guilds. His mind was totally wrecked, and all loose ends were tied up. When Dojan walked out, Ryoma had been completely lobotomized. He just kept yelling that the Yakuza are ... Knowing how to take out lingering enemies while aura farming is a true sign of a main character. Rumors of the smackdown between Korean and Japanese heroes spread like wildfire through the major news outlets. Some articles detailed the beating, some showed the wreckage, and most publications were scrambling for a quote from the rising star. The Korea Hero Association's Pres Na Tae-yong is in tune with what's hot. He knows his new guy is making waves in the news. The reaction's absolutely explosive. Yo, everyone's talking about Seo Dojan right now. And guess what? The Japanese Hero Association just decided to drop their investigation. Ryoma Takashi himself hit up his government to shut it down. Super weird, right? This dude's always looking for a fight, and now a whole country just backs off. You know, some shady stuff went down. But honestly, Natang had no idea what that was. The old guy just couldn't shake the vibe that with Dojan in the mix, things were about to get wild. Right now, there's just one day left until they kick off the mission to shut down the Brazilian Rift Zone. The Korean crew that got there early just wrapped up getting used to the area. Everyone was sharing plans like pros fine-tuning their strategy. All the other heroes from around the globe had shown up too. To hype up teamwork and good vibes, the Brazilian government set up a pre-battle party, and the star of the show, you guessed it, today's mystery man, Seo Dojan. Dude got himself a trench coat to look super cool. In the banquet hall filled with epic food, Dojan was vibing with heroes from other countries. News of him taking down Ryoma Takashi has gone worldwide. Naturally, everyone wanted the juicy details. Whenever someone rolled up to Dojan, it was all about that incident. But he kept it chill, no attitude. Inju casually joked that next to the man of the hour, her and Jian were total regulars. This kind of banter usually got a reaction from S rankers. But she was quiet, lost in her thoughts. Wondering why she seemed so down, Inju looked around. She spotted a fly Dojan chatting it up with some big deal heroes. And when she saw the incredibly hot woman all up on him, Juan's mood finally clicked. That lady Gloria Tyler, an American S ranker, voted the most beautiful hero on the planet. Inju connected the dots and slapped Juyan's back playfully, yelling for her to stop sulking like a kid and go chat with her man. Yuyan didn't really know how to talk to Dojan outside of mission mode, but she still made her way over. Though let's be real, she felt super awkward just staring at the floor instead of her fellow heroes. Dojan caught the blush creeping on her cheeks and couldn't help but grin. Gloria Tyler picked up on the vibe and said her goodbyes. Interestingly, she called Dojan Carcel, which was his name from his past life. It seemed like he introduced himself that way to Gloria. Even Julian was totally lost about this Carcel thing. She thought maybe it was just a Western name or something. In a way, she wasn't wrong. It was just a name from before Seo Dojan. Based on the limited info she had, she wondered if this dude grew up abroad. But that couldn't be true. She'd done a wild background check on him. Huyan was definitely bummed that another woman found out about Dojan's other name before she did. While they were just chilling at the banquet, some dude was lurking nearby low-key holding a drink. Kang Yong Pio was all ears. Inside, he was cursing his Japanese buddy for not dealing with one guy. At this rate, he was pumped to step in himself. While he was itching to tear Dojan apart, his ears caught Julian whispering a warning. She reminded her dude that even though he was strong, the enemies might not play nice. Ryoma Takashi had a tight crew. The one they had to watch out for was lurking in this hall. Dojan cut her off before she could drop the obvious name. He claimed he didn't need to know who was coming. It's gonna be the same old nonsense. Just like Takashi, the mastermind is nothing but a cocky clown with no skills. Dudes like that aren't worth stressing over. Dojan really pushed that point while he turned his eyes to the target hovering nearby. Kang Yong Pio quickly acted like he was totally oblivious. But deep down, he was feeling it. This guy was about to blow up at the party. The cherry on top of this rage bait show was Dojan's coy smile straight up mocking Yong Pio. The bait worked like a charm. Yong Pio didn't want to throw more hired help at him. He wanted to handle this Dojan thing himself. After the pre-battle fiesta, the heroes relaxed and were ready to roll the very next night. Inju, her guild, Yuyan, and Dojan were gathered outside the rift assigned to their crew and had to momentarily pause. The rift zone near Sanderm looked way murkier, darker, and super sketchy than usual. Still, some of the guys thought it was whatever. With 2 strong S-rank heroes with them, they should be able to charge in and shut that thing down. What could go wrong? Feeling uneasy, Inju told her team to move in. On the side, Dojan had a serious look in his eyes as he stared into the gnarly rift. He could sense something brewing. The ladies had no clue what he meant, but his ominous words gave them the creeps. It was faint but noticeable. The mono density in the area was on the rise like crazy. Inside the rift, something with long, creepy nails was eyeing a phone that showed a progress bar chilling at around 23%. The holder thinks that 30% is just around the corner. He believes this power level should be enough to wipe out those worthless bugs calling themselves heroes crawling into the rift. As soon as they rolled in, everyone felt like they were dragging weights in the air. Moving around was super tough. The heaviness in the air made it a struggle to breathe. All these vibes are pointing to a big switch in the mana quality around them. Right now, it's thicker than the Patisua forest. Juan had never seen this dude get so tense before. She couldn't shake off the worry about today's mission, but still, they were all in it to win it. Being the awesome leader she is, Inju kept her crew in check and chilled their nerves. She explained that the weird heaviness they were feeling is just how the rift zone rolls. With moving being such a pain, they couldn't let their guard down. Knowing those 2 S-rankers are their ace in the hole, Inju politely asked them to focus on keeping the formation safe, until they figured out why the mana density went nuts. This was the safest play, so they both nodded. No matter what goes down, the goal is to close that rift period. The Cleon boys looked pumped to follow their leader anywhere. Right when Dojan was stepping into the strange Santa rift, another squad was vibing at the rift zone near Manhwa, the largest city in northern Brazil. A mixed team of French, Korean, and Brazilian heroes got sent out. They are flopping hard. These guys are getting wrecked big time. Solo leveling had those ants on lock. We're up against killer bees. The overconfident foreign heroes thought this mission was gonna be a breeze. Seriously, these bees should have been easy pickings for C-rank heroes. But nah, they're getting totally wrecked by these huge bugs. Even the A-rank heroes in the gang were going down like flies. The killer bees didn't give a damn about human life. They've got killer in their name. What did they expect? The last hero standing took a swing at one of the flying critters, and his fist landed hard. But it was pointless. His body had turned so damn heavy that he couldn't unleash his full power. Normally, he could obliterate an entire hive of those bees on his own. But in this place, they weren't the hunters. They were just easy prey for the real predators. It's hard to tell how many of these so-called heroes will actually make it out alive. Back in Sam, Inju barely dodged a heavy axe swing from their first meetup. Posted up in front of the squad was a battalion of black orcs. Not your average black orcs either. Just like the killer bees, they were way stronger than their supposed level. Still, the Cleon boys kept pushing and pulled off their combos. Sadly, landing hits that ain't dealing damage isn't a winning strategy. Even with perfect teamwork, they couldn't crack the Black Orcs' massive defense. Caught with their guards down, the Cleon boys almost got wrecked by a full axe swing. John had to step in and drag them back to safety. She also yelled at them for diving in recklessly. Once the rookies were safe, Jian jumped back into the action. The Black Orc tried to trip her while she was in the air, but the S-ranker dodged those wild attacks like a pro. After showcasing some smooth moves, she flipped the script and went on the attack with a roundhouse kick. With reflexes like lightning, the monster quickly turned around to guard its exposed bald head. John's fake-out worked perfectly. She avoided the turn and instead slammed a high roundhouse kick. From way up high, she came down like a meteor. With one black orc down, the others were ready to avenge their fallen comrade. Pulling off a slick move, Juyin tricked the furious orc into taking friendly fire damage with its massive bone club. Realizing what he did to his buddy, the orc froze in shock. That gave Juyin the chance to slide in from behind with her lightning-fast move. This time, she didn't need any fancy moves. Just a clean kick to the back of the head would do. The Cleon boys were focused on Juyin's sick moves. Because of the epic enigma named Seo Dojan, they almost forgot that Hunian is also an S-rank powerhouse above normal mortals like them. One last black orc was still standing. This one tried to act tough with an annoying war cry. Luckily, a fist came in to smash its jaw, shutting it up right away. Juyin had her moment to shine. Dojan was just wrapping up the last bit of trash. Inyu felt totally useless. They were barely out of the rift entrance, and the challenge was already this insane. Even with 2 S-rank big shots, shutting this place down won't be a walk in the park. After wiping out the orcs, Dojan took a closer look at the cadavers for some clues, and Juan curiously checked it out too. He pointed out the faint black ripple circling the beast. It's not easy to spot with average eyes, but if you squint hard enough, it's definitely there. Dojan figured out that this black ripple is boosting the monsters massively. Its presence, effects, and vibes were all similar to dark mana, something that's not supposed to exist in this world. Sounds like he's in a chatty mood. Today, as he laid out what the black ripple means for this mission, deep into the Sanderm Rift, they hit a different biome and stumbled into a different class of monsters. They looked like globs of goo, a wild gang of swamp creeps. Against these slimy dudes, the Cleon crew jumped back in to show they could still throw down. They were slick and sharp with their well-rehearsed moves. But the damage just didn't cut it. Maybe a duo move could bust through. Teamwork can only take them so far. They managed to take out one of the swamp beasts, but that wasn't enough for the kill. They were used to dealing with regular swamp monsters, but this was a whole different level. Totally exposed, the guys got stuck in the scary muck. Spear Guy bounced back, but his shield-wielding buddy took the brunt of the hit. The attack was fierce enough to wreck a top-tier combat suit. Every strike is deadly. Panic, helplessness, and confusion clouded their heads as they kept fighting back. One wrong move could put their lives in serious trouble if they weren't careful about what's around them. Luckily, Guildmaster Inju was keeping her eyes peeled for any sneaky slime stuff. With her squad in danger, her combat instincts were kicking in hard. Jong-U swung her blade like it was part of her showing how she rose to the top with her own power. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling of dread. If these swamp ghouls are this strong, the Velcro are going to be a nightmare. For a sec, she entertained a super scary thought. What if every rift zone in the world goes through this kind of change? Meanwhile, let's see what's going down in the other rift zone near Manus. In this one, the rookies weren't as lucky to have solid hard carries. The only one left from one of the squads was sprinting through the woods, with his life on the line. Brazil's Arvado, Francis David, and a bunch of other chumps have fallen. Those two were supposed to be untouchable. They were S-rankers. And yet, they got taken out by just a few Volcra, a nasty spider monster. While casually smashing swamp ghouls, Juyin and Dojun started talking about the vicious bug waiting for them at the end of the rift. Dojun remembers that a Velcro filled with dark mana is hella dangerous. If those spiders have that same dark vibe, they're gonna be a pain to deal with. While discussing the boss battle, Juyin kept smashing the slimy monsters to bits. Similarly, Dojun was giving everyone a lowdown on highly concentrated mana shooting straight into a monster's body. Juyin asked if he meant the blue bar players use to cast magic in video games. It sounded like he wasn't getting anywhere with a lecture. In this world, no one even knows the biggest difference between heroes and regular folks is their ability to hold and use mana. Stopping his high-level lecture, Dojan punched through a swamp ghoul like it was nothing. He thought about how weird it is that a world doesn't even have the concept of mana. Now it makes sense why everything was so chill compared to his old world. At this rate, that place might break, but for now, he'll just muscle his way out of this swampy mess with his bare hands. Dojan took out the biggest swamp ghouls in the blink of an eye. The Cleon crew looked like they just came back from a war zone. Their S-rank babysitters on the flip side looked fresh as daisies. Now that they're in the clear, Dojan explained Black Mana's vibe in a more relatable way. Basically, the monsters in this rift are like athletes on steroids and performance enhancers. He found the lack of humanity's knowledge about this simple concept kinda bizarre and concerning. Leaving the swamp ghoul territory behind, Dojan stepped up as the navigator and led the crew away from the spot where Valkyra shows up. They also slowed their pace to a crawl. A few minutes later, Inju signaled everyone to stop, and the whole team froze. They hit the jackpot and found where a Valkyra was stashing its feeding cocoons. Wrapped in the toughest silk killer bees, and black orcs were captured and stored for later. It's safe to assume the monster behind this creepy scene is close by. But according to their de facto leader, they could chill a bit. Instead of hunting for the beast itself, they stumbled upon the real threat. And thank goodness they did. His hand shot out more fiery blasts. The targets didn't move, so you know the aim is on point. Each energy blob went off, burning the cocoons and the rotting monsters wrapped up inside. Vira that have soaked up dark mana can control their dead prey like puppets. Taking them out now would pay off big time in the final showdown. Ignoring them would be a recipe for disaster. With the secret weapon burned, all that's left is to take down the ugly spider. The crew just stared at him like he was nuts. Given what they've seen, that's a totally reasonable reaction. Inju and the rest were just amazed that even in what seemed like a doomed scenario, he acted like he knew exactly what to do. They were all blinded by his strength, but at this point, his entire skill set feels superhuman. Juan jokingly teased his encyclopedic knowledge and robot-like decision-making. She playfully asked him if this was his second shot at life or something. Hearing this made Dojan actually laugh. For a quick moment, he fondly remembered who he used to be. Carcel's do-over as Seo Dojan can really be seen as a second chance. Switching topics, he asked Inju how far they were from the core. With the map and their position locked in her brain, she figured they were kinda halfway through the trek after busting through the next jungle. At the pace they were going, this was gonna be a hella long slog. But Dojan was all like, we can totally seal the rift before the day's done. It might sound wild to him, but for the Cleon crew, a one-day boss rush, nah, that's pushing it. Most of them had already wiped out their stamina fighting off those swamp ghouls. If they can't push on, they can just chill for a bit. Dojan can't waste time though. He'll just, without even listening to the crew, he just took off like a shot, totally leaving everyone behind. They had all gone through hell. Yet that dude still had the juice to race through the woods like an unstoppable freight train. As the trees zipped by, he was all eyes checking for anything that could lead him to the final showdown. With his sick tracking skills and a kind of vague idea of where the Velka's nest was, he finally spotted his mark. The Velka is one nasty scaly beast with sharp blades sticking out all over. Oh, and it once bit a dude named Peter Parker, but honestly, that's irrelevant. Seo Dojan sprang into action, leaping through the air and ready to swing with his sword still in the sheath. He kicked off the wild cooking show by chopping up the spider legs, which were thicker than steel. That bug's ugly screech when it lost 3 legs at once. Yeah, that had to hurt. Mad as a hornet, the Velka opened its giant mouth and fired sticky silk like some noob just found the internet. It swung and missed big time as Dojan nimbly dodged the web's path. He zipped around like a blur. No sense dragging this fight out when he had such a major edge. With some wild slashes, the exotic cooking show came to an epic end. Dojan sliced the Velka into pieces and still had time to adjust his position for the perfect landing to soak up some aura. The monster that wiped out a bunch of S-rankers in another rift zone got wrecked in just a few seconds. He stood up, let out a deep sigh. He was still at peak stamina, feeling 0 fatigue. That might have been influenced by the dark mana he absorbed through his mana cultivation technique. After stashing the strongest monster in the rift, Dojan swaggered back to camp like he just took a whiz in the woods or something. Juan and Inju didn't even have to ask if he did what he set out to do. They just knew he's the man. That dude looked legit unfazed. His hoodie was all splattered with blood, but totally none was his. Since he couldn't sense any more dangerous creatures nearby, this jungle was the perfect spot to set up camp and get some rest. Once the fire was crackling, everyone plopped down to relax. There was Seo Dojan just chilling and roasting his spider meat on a stick. One of the Cleon dudes, the spear guy, peeked at what he was doing, got curious, and decided to approach their almighty leader. With a chill vibe, he asked Dojan if he could try his meat too. I mean, that guy had a whole mountain of meat, so sharing a little bit was no biggie. Seeing their buddy chillin' and eatin' with Dojan, another Cleon dude sprang in. Spear Guy wanted a taste of Dojan's meat, thinking it'd unlock his secret strength. With nothing to lose, the boys flocked around the fire to snag some Dojan meat. Everyone watched them pop the meat in their mouths like it was the most exciting thing ever. Dojan was actually kinda stoked to see the boys digging in, but he digged peeps wanting to power up. As a little gift, he casually tweaked his mana to give the boys a boost. The effect hit him right away. Sure, they thought the warm rush was all from the meat. Watching them beam with smiles got Dojan to crack a hint of a smile himself. After dinner came the serious planning again. With the map out, Inju pointed out the straight shot to the rift core. It had been a long day. It would probably be safer to head back and pick it up tomorrow. Even though Dojan insisted the rift had to close today, their packs were already stacked with loot, and it would be smarter to bail and come back later. John also vibed with Inju's take. The earlier battles zapped her energy, and those dark mana-infused monsters were, well, the original game plan was to stretch out closing the rift as much as possible. That way they could scoop up as many rare materials as they could, including that blue Krako's heart. They were supposed to turn the rift into an infinite resource glitch, but then dark mana crashed the party. Sudden twists like this are never a good omen inside the rift. Plus, he could sense something was off about the dark mana lingering around, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Dojan grabbed his sack and dumped it out on the ground. Hold up! The sack was packed with the shiny red eyes from the Velka. He told the ladies to haul all this legendary loot back to the hotel first. Since they were set on bouncing, they might as well keep his share of the loot. Before diving back into the shady dark woods, he promised to seal the rift and catch up with the crew soon. On his way to the rift core, wiser to bounce and come back later, Jian was totally on board with Inju's take. The earlier fights drained her stamina, and the dark mana-infused monsters are just too much to handle right now. The original game plan was to stall closing the rift zone for as long as possible, to gather all kinds of rare goodies, including the blue Krako's heart. They were aiming to turn the rift into a never-ending resource glitch, but the sudden dark mana twist messed that plan up big time. Major changes like this are never a good sign inside the rift. Plus, he could sense something weird about the dark mana floating around, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Dojan grabbed his bag and dumped its contents on the floor. Hold up! The bag was stuffed with the sparkling red eyes of the Velka. He told the ladies to haul all this legendary loot back to the hotel first. Since they were set on bailing, they could totally keep his share of the treasure. Before heading back into those creepy woods, he swore he'd seal the rift and catch up with the crew real soon. On his way to the rift core, Seo Dojan was bumping into a bunch of annoying obstacles. First off, those annoying swamp ghouls were creeping around the muddy waters like they owned the place. He's probably taken out dozens of them by now. He was straight up styling on these gross beasts while staying on the move. When using his bare hands got a little basic. His eyes glinted and he pulled out the blade. It was all swampy monster goo all over his sword as the ghouls vaporized around him. The secret to taking them down super quick, aim for the core, duh. Meanwhile, the Cleom Guild and Hun took the exit route once the sun popped up. Walking beside her bestie Inju couldn't help but worry about Dojan. Huyan was like, chill, he's got this. She said that, but Inju could totally see the doubt written all over her face. Juyan was rocking a low-key vibe, not because she was worried about Dojan, but because she felt like a total fake calling herself an S-ranker next to him. No one else in the world even comes close. Floating through the air like a boss, Seo Dojan's blade came crashing down on this black orc's head. He legit gave that poor dude the worst free haircut ever. Half of its brain and skull were chopped off in one clean swipe. Keeping the energy up, he switched targets and smacked another bald black orc's head. His emotionless slaughter had the remaining orcs totally torching with rage. Watching them throw their little fits made Dojan crack a small smile. An out-of-control axe swing came at him, but poof, he was gone when he popped back up. Watching them throw their little fits made Dojan chuckle just a bit. A wild axe swing came at him, and he totally blinked out of existence. When he popped back, this dude had a bunch of fireballs ready to roll in his hands. He unleashed a storm of spells on the orcs, roasting them to a painful demise. By the time he wrapped up his tour through the black orc den, he wiped out the whole squad. Each kill was just piling up his loot. John Inju and the gang finally popped out through the rift they came from. With bags loaded up with all kinds of valuable stuff, they headed back to cash in. Meanwhile, Dojan was grinding solo in the rift, under the bright sun. He took out a blue Krako like it was nothing. With his victim's blood all over him, Dojan just kept racking up the kills. While the corpse was still warm, he yanked the heart right out of the reptile's chest. After his little harvest, he tossed that hefty heart into a jar and sealed it tight to keep it fresh. Adding even more slices to his latest victim, he snagged 2 more crystals for his loot bag. Spawn camping the blue crocos turned out to be way more profitable than he thought with that high drop rate. Once they stopped respawning, Dojan packed up and bounced to another spot. Outside the rift in the Brazil Hero Association's HQ Situation Room, the tech geeks were hustling non-stop to keep an eye on the joint expeditions. Out of nowhere, HQ finally got a good notification. The map said the rift zone in Santa had vanished for a hot minute. The tech nerds couldn't believe their eyes on the screens. Once it hit them, cheers erupted in the Situation Room. They quickly checked what went down in the sector and found only 1 Korean crew was working that spot. The group was registered under the Cleome Guild's name. But hold up, how did they clear a rift when they just hit up HQ to say they were retreating 10 minutes ago? Makes zero sense. The HQ crew was totally confused because you see 10 minutes back, our dude was caught in a crazy all-out brawl against a nasty foe, the brutal twin-headed ogre. By eyeing this mutant beast, Dojan knew it had been evolving super fast thanks to dark mana. The beast stomped its foot, and it was like an earthquake almost knocked him off his game. After one last test of strength, the rift core was floating above the wide open land. Eager to wrap up this long night, Seo Dojan switched up his stance. Following the stomp, the ogre decided to play its reach card. The tip of Dojan's blade started heating up fast. At the same time, the ogre's massive fist swung down like a freight train. No matter how tiny an opening the opponent leaves, Seo Dojan knows how to break right through. With his sword all hot and ready, he unleashed the second form of Van Dion sword skills. With fire that could wipe anything off the map, Grami Gremera Poera, the line-sweeping magic ignited. The twin-headed ogre was absolutely not ready for what was about to hit. A perfectly straight slash lined right up against the monster's shoulder before it could even react. It left this deep, gnarly gash across the ogre's body, making it roar in pure agony. In the heat of battle, Seo Dojan gets to let loose and grin like a maniac, and he's just heating up. Not giving the monster a moment to breathe, he charged in with his fiery blade ready to chop. He was moving way too fast to block. He was lit shredding the two-headed ogre to bits. In a last-ditch effort, the ogre threw a fist to punch, but Dojan expertly dodged while gearing up for another hit. This time, instead of one slash, multiple crisscrossing lines sliced through the beast. Even the nearby trees weren't chillin', taking the hit from his sharp combo. With zero concern for his surroundings and no rookie heroes around, Dojan could finally flex his muscles. At this point, the ogre realized he was totally toast. With 2 heads and 2 brains, the fear factor was doubled. He quickly tried to bail on the lethal attack by leaping out of the way. At first, it seemed like the beast might actually dodge the chaos. But nah, one of its legs still got hit by that crazy magical sweep. It sliced right through the skin, flesh, and bones. Clean cut, dude. Both heads let out a loud groan of pain. With the beast all wobbly and missing a leg, Dojan's next attack was basically a guaranteed win. Venden's sword skill's second form is a savage move that can chop even the toughest foes into tiny bits. When the twin-headed ogre landed, it was like a meat rain. Dojan took a deep breath and put his sword away. He then turned his focus to that dungeon's rift core right in front of him. Gazing into the abyss, he made sure to check out the core's vibes. He noticed that the dark mana levels nearby were totally steady, no changes at all. That means the core ain't connected to the weirdness. It's super likely that some outside force is pumping the dark mana in here. Someone's doing this on purpose. To flood a rift zone with dark mana like that takes some serious power. Dojan figures that it's gotta be someone at the level of an undead lord or an imperial lich messing with this dark magic. But if that's the case, most life on Earth should be already enslaved as undead minions. It's tough to pinpoint a suspect right now. Regardless, shutting down the rift won't solve the problem if there's an outside factor involved. Dojan tightened his fist and smashed the heck out of the rift core. One hit was all it took to crack that swirling ball of energy. The cracks spread like wildfire, and the whole thing shattered into tiny shards. Dojan took it upon himself to figure out who's screwing with these rifts. Back at Brazil's Hero HQ, the president got wind of all the crazy reports about the expeditions. Reading through the crazy rundown of what's been going on with the rifts made him shiver. Every single line detailing the missions was insane. On one hand, they sent a 3-nation squad of elite heroes, but only one S-rank hero made it back in one piece. On the flip side, just one Korean squad managed to shut their rift down with 0 casualties. The HQ is still getting wild updates from other rift zones. Basically, every attempt has flopped, and the terrified heroes are scrambling to get out. Even though they mixed the teams to include at least one S-rank hero, the first round ended up being a huge fail. The only good news was the successful closure by Hun's Korean crew. But the reports make it hard to give them full credit. Mr. President grabbed the file and took a closer look at the SAM report. It said that the rift closed just after they had vacated the portal. It just didn't add up. It's hard to figure out how the rift was shut. They need to hear the real story from Hunian herself. Thankfully, she's already on her way to HQ and should be arriving any second now. From the moment Yuyan and Inju's team hopped out of the rift to when they hit the HQ, a little over an hour had ticked by. In that short time, Dojan closed the first rift zone without breaking a sweat. Now he's jumped into the second rift zone nearby. He quickly realized that the core of this one was underwater. Like the absolute boss he is, Dojan dove into the monster-ridden waters. Meanwhile, over in Brazil, the president of the Hero Association was just catching up on what went down in the Sam Rift. He found it hard to believe. Even though Jian gave her first-hand account, it's still wild to think a single dude's speed ran a rift crawling with this dark mana nonsense. John wasn't there for the end of Dojan's solo mission, but she's totally convinced he handled the whole situation solo. The president had to face that reality. He dropped some classified info to Julian about the epic failures of the other teams. Multiple S-rank heroes have bit the dust in other rift zones. Jian didn't hold back when she said she'd be part of that grim tally if Dojan hadn't stepped in. Based on the info they had now, it was hard to wrap their heads around her report. But she also shared some juicy intel about the dark mana that supercharged monsters, giving them strength beyond even S-rank heroes. Jian kept it chill. She spilled what she needed to, and it's up to the association to believe it or not. To make it even crazier, they just got word that several southern rifts around Santa have been shut down. The president figured those ones must have dodged the dark mana curse. Juan told the president not to go thinking that way. She claimed that every rift's danger level is nothing like it used to be. The first sign was a different entrance color than usual. For now, that's the only way to tell if a rift is a total death trap or not. Mr. President wasted no time and told his crew to double-check every rift entrance across Brazil. While he was working with his team, Jian stood up and bounced. Her job here was done. On her way out, she quickly called up Chairman Nate Wong of Korea's Hero Association. The old dude listened patiently to Juin's detailed report about their expedition and the dark mana dangers. Luckily, there's been no sign of such a serious threat yet in Korea. Now, the entrance color was totally off from the usual vibe. For now, that's the only way to tell if a rift is about to bite the dust or not. Mr. President quickly hit up his team to check every rift entrance all over Brazil. While he was juggling things with his peeps, Jian bounced and peaced out. Her mission was a wrap. As she left the office, she quickly hooked up a call with Chairman Nate Wong from Korea's Hero Association. The old dude patiently heard Juyan's whole rundown about their mission and the sketchy, dark mana vibes. Luckily, there weren't any signs of that crazy threat in Korea yet. Now, Taiwan's really got to keep an eye on their issues. If S-rankers are getting wrecked like they're nothing against those mega monsters, that's some serious stuff. If a boss-level monster runs into that kind of pure evil, it's going to be way worse than anyone's thinking. They might be chill for now, but Korea better gear up for whatever crazy happens next. While everyone else was freaking out, Seo Dojan was just vibing in the calm rift waters. Those rivers, lakes, and islands in the rift totally chill. The core is usually hiding underwater. Obviously, humans can't breathe underwater. Only a few heroes can really fight at full power in these tough spots. As far as Dojan knows, New Zealand's hero, Ivan Looper, is the one solid S-rank hero who's all about underwater battles. His specialty is a big deal, so he charges a fat price for tackling rifts beneath the waves worldwide. Thanks to his special ability to breathe underwater, he totally owns the market for all those annoying wet rifts. As Dojan dives deeper, he can feel dark mana getting thicker, like whoa. Taking a deep breath, he plunged into the unknown. Swimming like a pro through the water, the creatures near the surface were no biggie. But once he hit a certain depth, it was like all the light just vanished, probably because of that dark mana vibe. He also spotted some vicious-looking monsters circling around, super curious. As he strayed further from the land, he knew he had to stabilize himself underwater. Using his mana, he created a protective layer around his body to block the pressure and move like a boss. The deeper he goes, the more he had to tweak the mana membrane. By the time he hit the rift's deepest spot, Dojan had his protective barrier totally on point, letting him move freely. Right off the bat, he got targeted by a gnarly monster lurking in the shadows. It looked like a seahorse gone wild and supersized. He's already dealt with this tricky dude. An Archon. For sure it looked juiced up on dark mana. Dojan tightened his fist and expanded his barrier to cover a bigger area. By doing this, he lit up the murky depths. The sudden surge of energy threw the Archon for a loop, taking it down without even pulling out his weapon. The blood guts and bits of the Archon turned the water into a nasty shade of red. The smell of carnage drew a gang of blood-hungry piranhas. These little monsters didn't waste time chowing down on the Archon's leftovers. While the first wave was too busy feasting on the Archon guts, the second wave set their sights on Dojan. He figured if Ivan Looper were here, he'd probably freak out in his swim trunks. As soon as the second wave of piranhas swam into his zone, Dojan took them out like a champ. No worries about the water being all crazy. He kept total control of his moves. He kept hunting for more. Heck, he even socked a shark right in the belly. With his feet firmly planted on the floor, he threw punches just as fast as he would on land. He was taking out fish left and right. As he racked up kills, more hungry creatures showed up around him. Dealing with these small fries was super annoying. For the moment, Dojan opted to move. He picked a direction and took off. While he was dodging his fishy foes, an uneasy vibe hit him. He realized he reached a spot where no other creature dared to go. In front of him, lounging on a rock, was a weird one-eyed fish. Dojan instantly recognized that little jerk. This creepy fish is an Acryos. Dojan didn't think he'd run into a familiar creature today. It made him hype enough to grin. Back in the day, all the legends had one thing in common. They all hunted down the infamous Acro when they were still total no-names. For the current dude, this is a golden opportunity he can't let slip away. Coincidentally, the rift's core is chilling, right? Underneath where the Acro is lounging. The flattened fish with a gold and purple eye got itself ready for a fight. Dojan did the same, planting his feet firmly on the waterbed. These beings don't have any natural enemies out there. Whatever threats show up, they just create a subspace and swallow him whole. A real throat goat. Sure enough, as soon as he got close enough, the subspace started expanding, trying to suck everything in. Dojan had to sidestep the worst-case scenario of getting one-shotted before he could even get going. After narrowly dodging the initial expansion, he rolled his eyes and carefully moved around the tight gaps of the subspace. His motion was slick, avoiding the endless void creeping on the other side of the expanding subspace. The Acryos was keeping a close eye on the pesky human while Dojan powered up like a Super Saiyan. At this point, taking the fish out would be a piece of cake. But if he went the savage route, he'd miss out on its subspace. The only way to catch this thing properly is with pure mana suppression. This way, he can take out the Acryos and keep the subspace intact for the taking. Using top-tier mana and pure strength, Dojan cranked his output to the max and overpowered the stretching subspace. The light and crazy power of his pure mana wiped out the other mana monsters lurking around. Those poor fish had no clue what hit them. Dojan didn't care about the little collateral damage. He was more focused on the Acryos pushing back. The harder he tried to fight it and close the gap, the thicker and stickier the subspace got. Dude's already spilling a crazy amount of pure mana, and his tank is running low fast. He's got no choice but to soak up the dark mana from down deep. So he opened himself up to that nasty energy while purifying and throwing it out there real quick. Dojan was seriously pushing past his limits. He felt a trickle of blood sneak out of his nose. When he coughed it up, he knew he might have misjudged how much he could handle. Meanwhile, the Acryos was giving him that intense stare with its mysterious eye. Not wanting to miss this golden chance, Dojan was like, screw it, and went all in. A few moments later, the chill flow of the rift water got wrecked by a powerful surge. Seo Dojan pulled the Acryos out of its turf through sheer will. Now that they're on solid ground, the game is flipped, and Dojan quickly snatches the subspace. In his grip is an endless void that can be used for all kinds of stuff. As soon as that subspace was taken from the fish, it lost its spark and went belly up. Its lifeless body tumbled back into the water while Dojan just flopped on the ground. A few hours later, as the sun started to dip, Curious birds circled around the knocked-out Dojan. He woke up with a sneeze, spitting out the water that had splashed in. The birds got scared off, of course. Dojan opened his eyes, still wiped out from the crazy underwater battle. Luckily, his wet bag and sword were still on him. It would have been a major pain to dive back down into that dark water to look for them. Remembering what he had just pulled off, he sat up and tested out his new power. First, he summoned pure mana around his arm and could feel the upgrade it had taken on. For sure, his mana capacity has shot up like crazy compared to before. Fighting that flat fish and risking it all was totally worth it just for this. But the real prize from that suffocating battle was his newly snagged subspace. This is the biggest score he's racked up from this Brazil trip so far. No need to haul around his bag and sword anymore. He can just stash them in the void. Free from the hassle of carrying his loot and weapon, Dojan happily stood up and stretched out. He's already got a sick haul from this rift. Time to wrap it up. With the boss taken care of, he can just close the rift super quick and head back to the lodge. What a beautiful and productive day to be a subspace thief.